Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very, very tricky for the Georgian player. No, and he blunders his rook.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. He blunders his rook. And Magnus wins the game. And that was a lesson in just pressure. Duda, he has 3 pawns more than his opponent. Duda has won 3 in a row. He's getting off to a fantastic start. Gunina and Kostenyuk, 2 players with a perfect score. They're going to be facing each other. Kostenyuk once again has turned it around. And for the first time in the game, Gunina is down on the clock. Gunina is going to have to resign what initially looked like an amazing game from her. Magnus still has the threat on the pawn. There's the threat of rook f2. Magnus was actually very clever in how he just avoided the trade. Ishiro has lost on time.
So we have 3 players in first place right now in the open section.
This round, it's Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen.
I think Magnus is going to wrap this up really quickly.
The king moves away from the check. Magnus maneuvering his knight to a superior position. And Alireza resigns the game. The number 1 and number 2 players in the world right now. And Magnus Carlsen coming out there victorious, needing a win here if he is to have a sole lead. Magnus just simply retreating the king 1 step back. There's no stopping him from getting a queen on the next move. He's gonna win it, and he's gonna take the lead in this tournament. Carlsen playing against the youngster from Uzbekistan.
Abdusatorov has beaten some really strong players in this tournament, and that makes me kind of optimistic about his chances against Magnus here.
And Magnus now is going to give up another pawn. Wow, look at this. For the second time, Magnus is giving up pawns in order to just get rid of them. There's a check coming in here from Abdusatorov, and Magnus resigns. Abdusatorov takes the lead after a win against the reigning champion. Carlsen will have the opportunity to strike back with the white pieces against Nepomniachtchi.
Magnus is probably regretting this knight cd5. Now he's definitely forced to be playing for the draw.
He's not going to be catching Jan Nepomniachtchi.
That was surely a very disappointing game with the white pieces.
It's the big matchup of this round. If Kostenyuk makes a draw with the black pieces, she will be crowned world champion.
I would have to give the edge to white in this position because of the permanent nature of black's king problems.
I agree that this is an advantage for white. What? It's over! Kostenyuk is the champion!
Yes, Kostenyuk, she had a wonderful tournament, a very convincing first place with 9 points.
Alexandra Kostenyuk, the new women's rapid world champion.
Nakamura facing off against Carlsen. We've been waiting for this pairing, and it couldn't have happened at a better time when everything is on the line.
Magnus moved his rook and no longer is trapping that king on the edge of the board.
Yeah, I mean, rook a5 is a pretty good move, but also king g2, as you said. And
Magnus gives it up. It's a draw, and the rules of the event stipulate that only the 2 players with the best tiebreak score will be allowed to play the playoff. Third place, then, the bronze medal for Carlsen. It is Abdusatorov getting ready for the game. He will be facing Jan Nepomniachtchi of Russia. And Black's king doesn't manage to get back to defend the pawn. So Jan Nepomniachtchi is steering this game towards a draw. And that means Norderbeck is going to have the match ball with the white pieces in the next one. Nepomniachtchi getting rid of that last black pawn. Norderbeck getting rid of the white pawns. The guys shake hands. The white king is trying to run away from the checks. The rook just keeps checking in on that white king. Can the king get away? Both players are down to just 10 seconds on the clock. The king is finding shelter on the side of the board. Now he's returning to that checkmating idea that Irina identified earlier on. And now here comes the new queen.
Yes,
the new queen comes in, and then he's going in for the checkmate. Nepomniachtchi will have to, and he resigns. Nordirbek Abdusaturov is the new rapid world champion.
Wow, this is an amazing turn of events. I mean, what a special moment that we're witnessing.
The world rapid champion Nordirbek Abdusaturov. That is going to be a name to remember for the future. Only 17 years old and already a world champion. Welcome to the world.
Hello, chat. Hello, everyone. What's up? Welcome to another week of the Rapid Chess Championship, week 18. It's been 17 weeks already, and we are already into week 18. Still awaiting the first round here. The chess.com Rapid Chess Championship, it should be, and presented by Coinbase. It's a world-class rapid event for all grandmasters. It started out as an event for only those in the top 100, but expanded to include all grandmasters in the world and the top 10 women and the top 10 juniors alongside 10 wildcards. And this will go on till August 21. There will be a bit of break during the candidates, and it's supposed to start at 9:30. I'm not sure why it hasn't started yet. Probably because of the 1 minute delay due to the anti-cheating regulations. And here we have it, the standing so far. Hikaru Nakamura, number 1, as with all chess.com events, followed by Fabiano and Dmitry Andrikin. And Hikaru has won $55,000 thus far, kind of showing that chess as a esport is alive and kicking. And we have Fabiano, we have Dmitry Andrikin, Dubodani, and then we have to scroll down all the way close to number 20, which is actually in my number. So 18 and 19 is taken by Vedit and Ronak. And Ronak is, I think this needs to be updated because Ronak has reached knockouts 2 times. So I guess this needs a bit of an update, but this is the standings as of week 16 as far as I understand. And this is a scheduled chat. There's going to be a break for candidates because we're going to have some amazing shows during the candidates. So we're going to have a bit of break during the candidates. This will be the last week of Rapid Chess Championship at June 11, and then we go all the way to July 2 for the next event. Let's check if the games have begun. And we don't have the games yet. So let's get back here and have a look at more information about the event. Broadcast, make sure you don't miss a single minute of this action by subscribing to chess.com India and liking the stream. And the players, the grandmasters, the top 10 juniors, we have already covered this. And we have lots of wild card invites here, including Ronak, who performed amazingly, justifying his wild card status. And he needed a wild card because it was initially open only for the top 100. But here we have it, the Rapid Chess Championship. This is the top 12 of week 4. That was a few centuries ago. Time moves fast in 2022. The time control is 10+0. The players compete in a 9-round Swiss tournament. The top 8 qualify to the weekend's knockout tournament. So that's tomorrow. And in the event of tie affecting the top 8 players, the Swiss tournament tiebreakers apply. And if the tie persists, which it usually won't, additional tiebreakers will be applied. So 9-round Swiss, 10+0. Top 8 qualify for Sunday's knockout, and we'll look at Sunday's knockout in a short while. Another quick check if the games have begun, and For some reason, we don't still have kickoff of the games. What's happening? Anyone has any idea? Why hasn't the games begun yet? Why hasn't the games begun yet? And if it's going to take time, now who wants to have a quick look at the Prague tournament while this goes on, while we await the beginning? Oh, guys, look at the prize fund here. Look at the weekly prize fund. It's $7,500 for the first prize. That's what Hikaru usually takes home every weekend. Uh, but not exactly. He doesn't take it home every weekend. Oh, the games have begun. Okay. Let's quickly tune in though. We can get back to the money part anytime, but it's not showing for me. Oh, it's because I've gone to the knockout. What an idiot. What an idiot I am. The games have begun. Chess.com Rapid Chess Championship. The games have begun. Okay, getting back here. This is the chess.com Rapid Chess Championship. I click on this and then I go to the games and we don't have any games here. So what we're going to do is just going to click on the games right away to get one of the games going. And now we go back here and here we have all the games. Magics. So let's have a quick look at all the different players out here. There is Harika marking her weekly attendance in a chess.com event. There is Hikaru, there is Raunak. So Raunak plays against Timur Garir. Now, any other Indian out here? Do we have everyone in attendance here? There's Bharat. And yeah, I think we have 3 Indians. Did I miss anyone, chat? Have I missed anyone? This is it, right? Harika, Bharat, and Raunak. A bit of a not the kind of attendance that we are used to in the Rapid Chess Championship. Okay, why is this here? Ah, okay, I understand. I understand why we have this, and we'll get back to it when the standings have more relevance. So it's only Raunak, Harika, and Bharat. And in total, how many players are playing chat? How many players do we have in total for this week? How many players we have in total will help us determine how many points is required to get into the top 8. And I hope we have everything set now. Cool. We have everything set for now, and in total there are 52 players playing. So we are going to, I think we'll require about 6.5 to qualify for today. 6 will qualify, but 6.5 to be on the safe side. All right. So here we are. White has a lot of time, but it's a pretty dangerous attack on the king side against Raunak. And I'll just be back in a moment with all the games set. I'll be back in exactly 15 seconds. There we go. I'm back, and Ronak's position hasn't gotten any better. Chat. Pawn coming on f3, the other pawn coming on g4. It's a devastating position for. It's a devastating attack to face, and Ronak tries to take out one of the bishops in order to try and neutralize things. Knight c7, attacking the rook, attacking the bishop, and I don't think. I don't even think Black has to react to it. He can just ignore it and go g4. He goes for bishop into h3, and even the bar is undecided about that move. G into h3, I wonder what's the follow up. Queen h5 is an option, queen f5 is an option, and yes, Anshika times up true. So when you mentioned 52 in the chat, was it the number of players or was it the countdown to the NEET exam? So bishop at h3, now j into h3 has to be played, I think. Otherwise, it can get pretty dangerous. You can take knight into 8, but allowing bishop into g2 doesn't feel right. So Raunak, after a bit of think, he spent like 37 seconds there. He just took g into h3. Queen h5 is an option. Queen f5 is an option. And g4 is also a potential option. This position looks nasty, practically. Let's have a look at what Harika is doing. Harika is not having a great position out there. She has some pawn weaknesses, mainly the d4 pawn. This b4 pawn is also a bit of weakness, can be targeted by knight d5, but white has this move b5. So white black comes king c6 first, takes b5 under control, and then goes knight d5. Meanwhile, the other game is between Bharat and Jeffrey Chong, and Bharat is also not doing great. D4 pawn, B2 pawn weaknesses. One might wonder what this bishop on A2 is doing. Not totally clear, but it's not permanent there. It's not a permanent prisoner on E2, and it will see the day. It will see the light. It will see the freedom at some point. Unlike the students of the professional exams. Sorry about that. Anshika just gets that out of me. But yeah, this bishop on a2 has a future. Unlike, okay, maybe let's not go into that more so. But yeah, g into h3, g4. This is, I mean, back to the Raunak game. G into h3 happened, g4 has happened, and now Raunak has to find the best way to defend. But I think it's out there. Queen f4, queen g3 is one way to defend. Black can take and take bishop into d4 check, but also black need not trade the queens. So it's not so straightforward. It's not so straightforward. And king h2, there's queen h5. You can go queen f4, queen g3. Maybe h4 is the way to go. I think h4 is the way to go. This is what Raunak will play. What do you think, chat? If you're not using engine, do let me know in the chat what you would play. He's gone for queen f4, queen g3. He didn't have the evaluation bar like me to guide him. Bishop into d4 check, king h2, and now e3, f2, all these moves incoming. f2, later e3, e2. It's black is just raining pawns on white, and this looks difficult for Raunak, and it also looks difficult for all of the Indians. I have a feeling we're going to lose this one to 0-3. I have a feeling we're going to lose this one pretty badly. Anshika, if Anshika leaves, the chat is basically dead. So that's why she's staying here. Let's help Anshika go back to her NEET preparation by showing that the chat has some life. Wake up, chat. And Raunak has to give up something here. He has to give up at least a rook. What Timur is probably thinking is takes e3, and then if there's a way to get the pawn to e2, he decides that there is no way, but he has to speed up a bit. He's playing way too slow. Now rook c2 check and rook e8 is an option with the idea of e3, e2. He just goes e3, king into h3, and now rook b8 with the idea of rook into b3. It's still there's still hope for Ronak here. It's not yet over. And chat, what say? Do you think in the break we should look at some over the board chess? There is just so much happening. There is the there is the what's the name of that tournament? I forgot. Yeah, the Prague Masters, the Prague Challengers. There is also the French league happening where Arjun and Nihala are playing, and Surya, these three players. And then there's a Jalacross Open where Pranav is playing. And that's all the ones that I remember. Am I missing something? Do you guys also remember? Hi, Jay. Here is your chance to have a one-on-one conversation with me. Ronak once again having a bit of a long think. His best hope is flag, and to flag he has to survive long enough. So how does he do that? Can he? Yeah, he goes bishop to d6, exposing himself to rook into b3, and now bishop f4. Rook e8 is an option. Bishop into e3, and then there will be rook into e3. So rook e8, I think he's going to wait with rook e2. Yeah, that's what happened. Rook e2. Oh yes, Leon is also in the French league. Good one, Anshika. Good catch. I just made that mistake deliberately to see if you're still lurking. And turns out you are. HY checking f3, king f5. But Timo has to play fast. The speed at which he's playing is going to get flagged for sure. Knight to c7. Now rook to e4. Wow, chat. You guys are so up to date. I'm so proud of this amazing chat. So rook e4 happening, h4 is an option, bishop e5 is an option, and knight d5, bishop c5, rook into a4 is attacked, but the time is also pretty limited for black. And now what Timur has to do is trade these rooks first. He goes rook c4. He kind of gives up this pawn. He didn't need to do that. And he also has this pawn. So Ronak not interested in trading the pawns. G4 check, an important move. And if I think it's pretty even Stevens here, guys. Ronak is losing in terms of position, but in terms of time, he's just totally winning this one. King to d3, he has to take some rook into g4. Just take it. Oh no, there's knight e1 check. Tricky stuff by Ronak. Rook b7, now he goes knight e1 check. And there is a very real chance of flagging this. Knight f4 is also an option. I don't think Timur is... Oh no, knight f4 check falls for rook at f4. So knight e1 check, king d4, but this is going to be a flag. Timur better repeat with king d3. He takes rook into c2, rook f7 check. He's not going to be able to draw this one so easily. It's the same color bishop. And a bit of desperation from Timur, but it's not going to be easy. King g2, yes, king g2, bishop a7. Almost pre-moved by Timur, but he still took a second for that move. And that speed is not going to cut it, guys. It's a rapid chess championship. 10 plus 0, no increment. G5, this pawn is going to be alive. And now he'll support it with bishop h4. It's not going to be easy. King e2, bishop h4. No, he goes king e4, okay. But bishop h4, rook f4, king g3, just e2 for the moment. King d3, there's bishop c3. Yeah, Ronak is winning this one, I think, by flag. Meanwhile, the other results, Bharat has lost against Jeffrey Chong, and Harika is still playing against Mohammed Mun. Oh, G6, Rook G5 check. What a move! What a move that one was. And now he's going to queen this pawn. Bishop C3 and even coming soon. I don't think Ronak saw that one. Rook G5 check, an amazing move by Timur. And now with Bishop F2, he threatens to take everything. It's a battle of flagging. And I think Ronak will still win this one. 3 seconds is just too less time for Timur, and that Ronak has it after Rookie to check. He wins on time. We saw that coming from miles ago, and that was just too slow from Timur, but good for Ronak, and he starts positively. Meanwhile, Harika is also winning against Muradli. How did this turn around? He was completely dominating, and he's also a very strong player. He played in the JSCC. He defeated Ronak in the JSCC, and also gave a very legit fight against uh, Arjun, but he has lost the first round here. I think it was sometime around this point where Harika's pawns just started rolling, and there's no way to prevent it. Things just turned around, and yeah, this was a crushing win for Harika. So that's the end of first round, guys. We'll be back for the round two after a really, really short break. We'll be back in just a very short time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, no! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a pre-move! He made a pre-move! King G3!
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's like
far.
defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the...
Welcome back, everyone. And I don't know what happened there. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. And we are back for the round two of the Rapid Chess Championship. In the first round, Raunak won his game, and Harika won her game. So they both have 1 out of 1. And Bharat lost his game. So this is the update we have after the round one. And round two, Harika is playing against Georg Mayer. Raunak plays against Sviers Darius, who is a very strong grandmaster originally from Poland. He went to USA to study, and now he plays under the United States of America flag. And Bharat is playing against Shu Yonglun from China. So this week seems to be one of the weaker tournaments in the Rapid Chess Championship, which is also understandable. There's just so much chess action going around all over the world. It's incredible. Things have gone back to 2018 levels. And now Ronak starts off with the Rogozin variation, and it went into knight f3, d5, bishop d2, b6. So it started off as the Nimzo Indian, knight c3, bishop b4, but it transposed into Rogozin after knight f3. When black responds with d5 after Nimzo Indian, it becomes Rogozin. And this variation with e3, bishop d2 is one of the most interesting lines for black, also for white, which became popular sometime around 2018, 2019. And by now it's not so popular. as it used to be, because black has found a number of ways, but it is still played a lot, especially in short time controls. So white takes, and here there are quite a few more nuances. White went bishop d3 directly in this game. Rook c1 is another option, and his goes bishop d3, bishop b7, queen c2. And in these types of questions, it's so important for black to get his pawns rolling on the queen side. So he starts with c5, short castle, c4, gets this bit of an advantage on the queen side. Bishop e2, knight d7, and now b3 with the idea of attacking the c4 pawn. Bishop into c3, bishop into c3, b5. Everything defended on this side. This pawn protected passer so soon, kind of like our juniors. It has achieved so much in such a short time. And for those who are just joining us, yes, Ronak won the first round. He managed to, and Harika has also won her first round. So we won 2 out of 3 of the Indian encounters in the first round today. Queen c7, and now the idea is rook to c8 and get some pressure here. There's also the option of knight e4. Computer likes this a bit for white, but I honestly feel it's very comfortable for black to play in a shorter time control. So curious there. Let's have a look at the Georg Mayer Harika game, where things are there are fireworks on the board. The f2 pawn is attacked, and white should be able to defend it in a number of ways, but the f5 knight is also attacked. And this is the present problem that Harika is facing, but she can just defend both of them with knight e3. This was one option, and the other option was to go knight h6 check, give up this f2 pawn, and try and create threats against black's king. But I think knight e3 was the saner option. Rook d8. It looks like Georg Mayer knows exactly what he's doing. He's an expert in this Rubinstein variation of the French defense, and he scored a couple of wins against me as well in the World Rapid and Blitz Championship in 2019. So I think he knows exactly what he's doing, and he seems to be doing a pretty good job here. So I think it's going to be pretty challenging for Harika to get something here. Her pieces are nicely placed, knight on e5, bishop on g5. But the thing with these kind of questions is these pieces can be pushed back quite comfortably. And for now, black's position looks like a spring, but it can just bounce at you. So he has to be careful with that. And bishop e8 on board here. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the Bharat against Shu Yunglun game. It started off with an English opening. We'll take it from the top. Started off with the English opening, c4, e5, g3. The other option is to play knight c3. g3 also one of the main moves here. Knight c6, bishop g2, f5. Knight c3, developing the pieces pretty much in accordance with the English opening style, or even the Sicilian style. It starts with e4, c5, knight c3, knight c6, and we have the literal reverse of this pawn structure out here, except that white is a move up, so white is a lot better placed here, but also the expectations from black is lower than white's. So in that sense, it's easier to play as black. Knight f6, knight f3, d6, short castle g6, typical slow Sicilian with the pawn on f5. Rook to b1 with the idea of b4, b5, typical idea in English opening. d3, h6, b5, knight d7, a4 with the idea of bishop a3, c5, g5, bishop a3, knight j6, and now white just goes a5, bishop e6, c5, rook f7, and black says that he's comfortable for the moment. He has these pawns out, he has his pieces developed, and there are no apparent weaknesses on the queen side to target against. And in these types of questions, if white exerts pressure on this diagonal, black can quickly cover it up with d5. So something like knight d2 would be met by d5, and Bharat has nothing to worry for the moment, and it's all okay for him right now. So this is the roundup of the opening in all the games. Getting back to the Ronak, oh, lot has changed here. Getting back to the Ronak Swish game, let's go back to where we left it. It was around this point: takes rook 8, bishop 8, rook a1, queen c7, knight e5, rook c8 with the idea of c to b3. c3 was hanging. White just goes knight into d7, queen into d7, bishop to b4. There is this protected passer, but white is like, I have the pair of bishops. So he continues with bishop f3, h6, h3. And now, since the a file is pretty much the only file open in the game, and since white has control of it, Ronak goes to the a file. He challenges it and tries to take charge. White is like, of course, I'm not going to give it to you like that, Ronak. He goes queen e2, rook into a3, queen into a3. And now black can go queen e8, but you don't want to get into this endgame with the pair of bishops for white. The bishops are just going to be stronger. So Ronak clips white's pair of bishops by playing the knight to e4, kind of forcing bishop into e4. He's like, give up your bishop or I'm going to promote my passer. So white gives up his bishop for the moment, takes, b into c4, b into c4, queen e5, getting this queen onto this diagonal, which will control the c pawn and also go towards black's king. So queen a5, bishop d5. Now, the position is in a bit of impasse, so white starts repeating. The c4 pawn cannot advance, but white also doesn't have anything in particular. So white starts repeating, but Ronak is like, no, I don't want repetition. I need to qualify and I need to score a lot of wins. So I'm going to get these wins first before I start making draws. So he goes king h7, king g1. Slowly starts to improve. Queen c6, queen e6, queen f5. Now he gets the pawn to h4, bishop d8, f6. Also, I think Ronak should be thinking that at some level he's better because of this c4 pawn. The evaluation bar thinks it's equal, but practically white has a bit more danger. This c4 pawn is it's a factor for white to contend against, but black doesn't have any similar danger. So for now, Svirsh just keeps moving around. He will get his queen to c7 and bishop to f8, I think. And no, he goes queen b5 with the idea of queen e8 check. Actually, Svirsh is quite close to my age. And we played in quite a few of these age group world championship matches. And guys, I think this should end the draw in a pretty short time. What do you guys think? I think this should end in a draw very shortly. So this should end in a draw. King h2 played by white. And what's the format, guys? Remind me, when are the breaks? It's at round 4 and round 7 or round 3 and round 6? I think it's at round 3 and round 7, if I'm not wrong. And it's a 9-round event. Okay, so this is going to be a draw. So let's have a quick look at the other games. Harika against Gyog Mega, where Gyog has taken over. He's completely better here. With the black pieces, the G file is opened up. The white king is in imminent danger. And this is one of the reasons why he's such a dangerous player to play against in general. And Harika also has lesser time, but now black has to think and find a way to get the breakthrough to get towards white's king. and that's what he's thinking towards. He plays Queen B7 after a bit of think. White has everything defended for the moment, so she's going to keep it that way. She's going to keep everything defended. F4 is not an option right now. The G2 bishop would be vulnerable. And how does black make progress though? How does black win? F5 came at the top of my mind. F5, bishop d5. Black doesn't need to do anything immediate. Black doesn't need to win right away. He should be happy to just keep improving his pieces and keep making progress, and that's what he does with bishop d5. Many times we are in a hurry and too eager to win to finish off the game, but there's not always a meeting attack. And he goes bishop d5, knight e1 played by Harika. She's defending everything. Let's have a look at the Bharat game meanwhile. The conclusion in Harika's game, it's bad for her. And in the Bharat game, White has made quite a bit of inroads as well. There's a lot of advance on the queen side, whereas on the king side, black doesn't have any prospects. It's been closed down. How did we even get here? It happened here. He played this pawn to e3, knight e4, and then white just took this pawn. He just captured it with f into e3, and now white has superiority over both sides. But Bharat has more time, so that's a bit of advantage for him. But white has superiority on both sides, and this is looking terrible for Bharat. Getting back to the Raunak game, it's an opposite color bishop. It should be a draw. Raunak can try to flag his opponent, but he has like about 2 minutes. So I don't really expect this to be a draw. I think, I'm sorry, I do expect this to be a draw, but I don't expect them to agree for a draw. I think white has more than enough time to not get flagged here. And Svirsh can also, I think, he's also a bit more clock aware than Timur was. So it should be holdable, I think. But not immediately. Raunak will try. Raunak will try for some time. Meanwhile, chat, how are you divided between flagging and getting flagged? What happens to you more often? Do you get flagged more often, or are you the flagger? Are you guys Arjun or are you guys Srinath? I mean, are you guys in the Arjun Nihal camp, or are you in my camp? This is a pretty instructive defensive strategy by white. The king takes care of this pawn, the bishop takes care of this pawn. So Raunak is giving up this pawn to go to bishop f1. But king into c2, bishop f1, g3, and white has nothing to worry about. These pawns will get traded. Oh, this is Raunak's idea. Neat and smart. G into h4, bishop c7 and bishop g3. But this was pretty smart by Raunak. Took me also by surprise. But the problem for him is when this king moves, this pawn will start rolling. So he doesn't really have anything for all that hard work. He has nothing to show. And this should go towards a draw. So once again, let's have a look at the Harika game. An evaluation of -7 means we don't really even need to look at the position. If this was white to move, then white wins immediately. But since this is black to move, black has time to step out of that mate threat that white was having. h5, queen f2. Now there's bishop e3, bishop at g1, and Harika has lost an exchange. Oh. Georg wants to trade the queens. It's like, I don't want just the exchange. I want to finish off clinically. Now queen c2 check played, e4 attacking the rook and covering the check. f5 is also an option, and just 1 minute each for both the players. Harika tries to get some counterplay going. She takes f into e4, bishop into d6. The point is e5 check and e into d6. I'm not sure if this gets her anywhere though. Looks like there has to be so many ways. Rook into g2 is one pretty option for black here. Rook into g2, knight into g2, and he goes for the softer option, queen b3, trying to trade. What? She just blundered that rook. She should have really taken queen into b3. Could have kept the game going. Meanwhile, rook into g2, the variation here goes rook into g2, knight into g2, and now queen h3. This would have been indefensible. And after knight into f4, the point is rook into g1 check, king into g1, queen f1 mate. But okay, guys, getting back to the live action. This is the live position. Harika has lost her rook, and after queen h3, we have a similar position, but no way for white to defend, and she has resigned. Raunak has drawn his game, so the final live game is between Shu Yinglun and Bharat, and night before rook 8, only 20 seconds for white. He's going to get flagged, guys. I think Bharat is going to win this one. You can't play the Rapid Chess Championship like this with such a huge time deficit because there's no increment. And the position simply doesn't matter unless white is mating immediately, because there are just so many moves here that black can make. Now white is threatening queen d7, queen c7, these kind of threats, but rook c8, and the time deficit is reducing. Rook g4 is a threat, so he comes back. Knight to a6, and then he just takes the pawn. Knight into b4. He has to maybe just go knight d3, keep everything safe. Get the queen to d7, but he's not going for it right away. Just making these moves. Very less time for white. Queen d7, queen h3. He's just moving. He's just making moves. Knight f4, rook g4 now. Oh, rook f4 is also pretty decent. Now Bharat has got back something in the position, but queen e7 check. Queen e7 check incoming. Queen e7, queen h4. No, he just takes the pawn. Now queen f6 checks. A couple of checks by Bharat. We're going to have a move lag because this is not chess.com live. And yes, Bharat is going to win this one on time, like he has lost so many games. Oh, he's blended his queen and his opponent didn't take it. And now it's just two less time. Bharat has managed to win this one. So Bharat moves to 1 out of 2, and that's the end of round 2, guys. At the end of round 2, Raunak at 1.5, Harika and Bharat at 1 out of 2. We'll be quickly back after a short break for round 3 action as soon as the games begin in just about 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, no! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a remove. He made a remove. King g3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's like
far.
defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life, and I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes. There's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no.
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to round 3 action. And the clocks were 0 for both of them, but there's also a millisecond count, and Bharat had more milliseconds. His opponent had less time. So you usually have 0.9 or something like this while your opponent runs out of time. And even if you have like 0.2 or 0.3 and your opponent falls to 0.00, it's You have lost that one. So that's what happened there. And Bharat managed to do the dirty flag. This is such a massive variable, guys. So, once again, what do you prefer? Uh, Games with increment or games without increment? This is round 3 of the Rapid Chess Championship presented by Coinbase. And Raunak so far is the leading Indian player with 1.5 out of 2. But he's facing some pretty stiff opposition today. And Raunak's MO has been to just get a quick, good start and then make draws all the way. And he has qualified for the knockouts the last 2 times. You get into the top 8 to get into the knockouts, and Raunak has gotten there the last 2 times. It's a 9-round Swiss event, and right out of the opening, it started off with 1 e4. The Sicilian defense, where Raunak went 3 bishop b5 check. Bishop d7, the most solid response. Takes, short castle, knight of 6, queen to e2, defending this pawn. Then b3. Note that black took with the knight, not with the queen. The second most popular move here. And against this, white plays the queen to e2, gets the bishop on b2 and c4. It's a very nice bind for white. Excellent control of the center. But black usually counts on breaking with d5. Raunak doesn't allow it that easily. So rook a1, knight into f3, queen into f3, queen b6. Rook fe1, getting all the control of the center. Grigori doesn't mind for the moment, but I think I like white a bit more here. I think white is just a little bit better. Black has to get the b5 break or the d5 break in these types of questions. And with rook a c1, Raunak moves a step towards preventing it. Bishop f6 played by black. Rook d1 or bishop e3, queen d1. No, he just takes bishop into f6 and gets a knight to c3. But now black is pretty much in the game. You flag or get flagged, Anshika? Yeah, the bishops have been traded. Rupak, the Indians who are playing today are Raunak, Harika, and Bharat in the Rapid Chess Championship. And then there are a bunch of Indians who are playing outside the Rapid Chess Championship. So a lot of games going on there. What do I think of Hari Krishna's chances in the Prague Masters? I think it's pretty promising. I think he's going to. I think it's very promising, his chances of winning in Prague, and he's playing. He's playing at that level of chess after a while. Actually, he had a bad start to the year in 2022 against his opposition in the Grand Prix, but I think he had just become a father at the start of the year, and in the last 1 month, I saw a lot more determination and hard work, and it's showing already. Yes, actually, a lot of Indians are busy with off the board, and let's have a look at the other games, guys. So this is Raunak Oparin. Raunak is pressing a bit, but I think black is not too uncomfortable either, and the position is pretty solid. Meanwhile, there is the game between Yang against Bharat. Yang with the white pieces, Bharat with the black pieces. And it started off d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, c5, Benoni. Bharat's pet opening, d5, takes, d6. Now the pawn goes to e4, the other pawn goes to f4. This is the reason why A lot of people don't play 3c5 against knight c3 because it allows white to get this pawn to f4 directly. Bishop to g7, bishop b5 check, knight of d7, a4. The problem with getting this pawn to a4, it allows this knight to get to b4, so black exploits this, and this is a pretty popular mainline position. And the biggest danger for black here is the attack against his king. So king h1, a6, takes f5, a pretty standard approach by white. After a6, bishop e2 is also a move. Bishop c4, bishop d3, all of them possible. For some reason, white takes on d7, goes f5. G takes f5, bishop to g5, f6, bishop f4, with the idea of attacking this d6 pawn. That's a pretty good idea, guys. Do you want some music here? That's actually a pretty good idea. I hadn't considered it, but yeah, let's go for it. Let's get some music going out here. Now, what music do we go for? Let's go for something safe and copyright free. Okay, do you hear it? Probably not. 1 second. Yeah, now you should be able to hear it. And here we go. I think it's only Bharat's second black, right? So it's only second black, and these things happen in the initial stages. You get double whites or double blacks. Harika got 2 whites in a row, and now Bharat gets 2 blacks. I think it's pretty normal. What color did Ronak play in the previous round? He played black, so white, black, white. So it can be white, black, black. It happens when both the players have alternate colors clashing. So when it clashes, someone has to get a break, and that's how the colors get decided in a Swiss event. Bishop g3. So what's going on in this position? Bishop g3 just played by Bharat here. The d3 bishop is hanging, f5 pawn is hanging, but white couldn't take rook into d3 in the previous move because the h4 knight was hanging. So f5 bishop g3 played, defending this h4 pawn, but allows white to pull his bishop back or do something else. There's c4, there's knight c2, c4, there's also knight at f5, and black is doing pretty decently out here. Bishop c2 just played by Bharat, attacking white's queen, queen d2. The queen gets out of the way, and there's still the pressure on f5. This position is complex. Meanwhile, a quick update on the Ronak game. It got liquidated, everything got traded after this move d5, and the game has ended in a draw. So Ronak moves to 2 out of 3. He needs to get going. He hasn't yet gotten going, but it's a pretty decent score from general standards. Just that Ronak has set some pretty high standards for himself in this tournament. And Harika is the other Indian playing. She's playing against Andrew Hong from USA, a pretty young player, and the pawns are equal, but it's a bit better for white because he has the queenside majority here, and black's pieces are a bit awkwardly placed. So it's easier for white to create a pass pawn on the queen side. The c5 pawn is a bit of a weakness. Rook a5 incoming. G4 played by black. Bishop e2 is an option. Bishop g2 is an option. White just goes bishop g2. Rook a5 is up next. rook c1, and the computer doesn't like it for some reason, because after bishop b7 I think this b3 pawn is also said to be a weakness. So Harika getting back into the game with that move by white. Meanwhile, we had some pretty interesting action in the Prague Masters, which we'll get to during one of the breaks. Some pretty interesting position in the Hare Krishna game. Crazy game actually. I'm looking at it from time to time, and it was pretty crazy, an insane endgame. But getting back to the other Harika, here it's a pretty interesting position, but right now it's status quo. This b3 is a weakness. Now, who's surprised that the b3 pawn is a weakness, that it's a bad pawn? It's a fragile pawn, and it's the source of all white's problems, the b3 pawn. And for black, the c5 pawn is a bit of a weakness, and with rook d1, white is setting up to get towards this point, rook d7, and there's a mating net. So if black goes rook b8 attacking this b3 pawn, white can defend it with rook d3, but white can also go rook d7, and if rook into d7, there's a knight into d7 check and massive problems. So black just goes king to g7 for the moment, keeping everything under control. And now rook b8 is an option. There is the option of knight f6 to take d7 under control, and then go rook b8, but she goes rook b8 anyway. I'm not sure how she wants to respond to rook d7 check. Probably just trade this, get this rook out to d1 and start creating threats of black's own. This is possible. Rook b8 played by black here. Knight to c6. Attacking the rook, just keeping things going for the moment. White has a 2-minute advantage, and that will also play an important role in this game. Rook a6 defending the knight on c6, and right now this rook can not get to b8 because of this knight on c6. But the knight on c6 is not out there for long term, and black can evict it with yeah, he just goes king f6, she just goes king f6, knight e5. The pawn can go to h5, king e7 played by black, not allowing any incursions on the d7 point. But the problem now is if rook b8, then there's knight c6 check. So it's not easy to organize counterplay as black either. And king e7, keeping everything protected for the moment. Knight into g4, a very nice and sweet tactic there, but black can retort with knight into g3, so she isn't really losing anything. F into g4, and the pawns are equal. White is threatening to play king e5, threatening to create some serious threats, but black can counter it with rook b8 and rook into b3 and try and create counter pressure on the g3 point. So it's pretty even Stevens here. Rook b8. Now king e5, there is rook into b3, rook d6 is an option. Rook into b3, rook into e6 check, king f7, there's king d7, and yeah, so rook d6, I think we are going rook into b3, rook e6 check. There is definitely intense pressure for Harika, and this looks bad for her because of the less time that she has. Rook into e6 check in. Now this rook will come out to d7, this king will come to f6, and this can be pretty nasty for black here. This looks pretty bad, and black has too little time as well, so that's not going to help either. And yeah, rook b4, but rook b4 at what point and when and why? So now Harika's like white cannot go king d5 because of rook into d3, but white doesn't have to. Just king f6 with the idea of rook d8 check. And now she just takes this g4 pawn. Sorry, he just takes this g4 pawn. Harika trying to fight on with the threats of rook e4, but white is like, I'll take the c5 pawn first and then I'll defend the c4 pawn as well. So the g4 pawn is mine for the taking whenever I want. And pretty clever play by white, bringing this rook onto e7, so there's no rook g8 check. And now he's taken the c5 pawn. He will also take this g4 pawn pretty shortly, and it's going to be GG's. So white is winning here, and let's have a look at the Bharat game. The Bharat game is pretty complex. It's an opposite color bishop with the presence of rooks, but Bharat has the upper hand. He's just played rook e8, developing his rook, getting his rook into the game. Rook e1 check, potentially incoming rook e1 check, but white has just played the pawn to h4 with the idea of h5 and getting the rook onto the g7 point. And black is still clearly better and has a 1 minute time advantage, so it's going to be very tricky for white to be able to save this game here. Bharat goes king f6, preparing to meet h5 with bishop f7. There were other ways to deal against it, like he could have traded the rooks with rook e5 earlier, and the endgame would have been pretty interesting as well. But he just starts with this. Now king h2, rook e5, rook into e5, king into e5, and both these pawns would be attacked, the d5 and the h5 pawn. White can try to defend with bishop g7 and bishop f8. That's what he does. Oh, he goes for h6. Now the d5 pawn is lost. Bishop into d5, bishop f8, king e6. This is different. This is a big difference. He had to play bishop f8 here. This was important. And now after h6, we see a big spike because of this exact difference. The king comes to e6 and defends. Bharat happily going into the opposite color bishop endgame. This is pretty drawish objectively, and objectively in a game with more time he would have taken with the bishop, but here he takes with the knight because he knows that he can flag, and it's actually not so easy. 38 seconds is a lot of time because a pre-move takes only 0.1 second, and there is a lot of time here for white. I think enough time to make a draw, to make these pre-moves. He'll put the pawn on g5, and then at some point he can just start making pre-moves for every move. Put the bishop on b6 and then pre-move king c1, king d2. That's one strategy. He has a lot of time. Meanwhile, Harika has lost her game against Handro Hong, so she moves to 1 out of 3, and it's been a bit of tough going for her today. She was also worse in her first round, which she managed to win. Yeah, now white has got this point. He puts this bishop on c3 and now just pre-move the king back and forth. But b6 is a move to watch out for. But now, oh, this is actually not so simple because this pawn can go to a3. Not so easy to pre-move. He can pre-move till this point, but now a3 can hit anytime. So it's not so easy to do this 50 move thing here for white. a3 can hit anytime, and he's lost the second pawn. Still a draw, but now things get more complex, and Bharat is en route to winning this actually. Yeah, with that pawn c3 check and the a passer is created. Some pretty skillful play there by Bharat. And now king c4 wins the game because, yeah, a2 and this pawn queens. So d2 and black has won this one. So Bharat at 2 out of 3 at the end of 3 rounds. Raunak at 2 out of 3. And Harika with 1 out of 3. This is the update after round 3. We'll be back after a short break for round 4. And we'll also be back with the Prague Master game of Hare Krishna and the fourth round of the Rapid Chess Championship along with the standings. So stay tuned, and meanwhile do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and we'll be back.
Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very, very tricky for the Georgian player. No, and he blunders his rook.
Oh my gosh.
He blunders his rook.
Why?
And Magnus wins the game. And that was a lesson in just pressure. Duda, he has 3 pawns more than his opponent. Duda has won 3 in a row. He's getting off to a fantastic start. Gunina and Kostenyuk, 2 players with a perfect score. They're going to be facing each other. Kostenyuk once again has turned it around. And for the first time in the game, Gunina is down on the clock. Gunina is going to have to resign what initially looked like an amazing game from her. Magnus still has the threat on the pawn. There's the threat of rook f2. Magnus was actually very clever in how he just avoided the trade. And Shiro has lost on time.
So we have 3 players in first place right now in the open section.
This round, it's Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen.
I think Magnus is going to wrap this up really quickly.
The king moves away from the check. Magnus maneuvering his knight to a superior position. And Alireza resigns the game. The number 1 and number 2 players in the world right now. And Magnus Carlsen coming out there victorious, needing a win here if he is to have a sole lead. Magnus just simply retreating the king 1 step back. There's no stopping him from getting a queen on the next move. He's gonna win it, and he's gonna take the lead in this tournament. Carlsen playing against the youngster from Uzbekistan.
Abdusatorov has beaten some really strong players in this tournament, and that makes me kind of optimistic about his chances against Magnus here.
And Magnus now is going to give up another pawn. Wow, look at this. For the second time, Magnus is giving up pawns in order to just get rid of them. There's a check coming in here from Abdusatorov, and Magnus resigns. Abdusatorov takes the lead after a win against the reigning champion. Carlsen will have the opportunity to strike back with the white pieces against Nepomniachtchi.
Magnus is probably regretting this knight cd5. Now he's definitely forced to be playing for the draw.
He's not going to be catching Jan Nepomniachtchi.
That was surely a very disappointing game with the white pieces.
It's the big matchup of this round. If Kostenyuk makes a draw with the black pieces, she will be crowned world champion.
I would have to give the edge to white in this position because of the permanent nature of black's king problems.
I agree that this is an advantage for white. What? It's over! Kostenyuk is the champion!
Yes, Kostenyuk, she had a wonderful tournament, a very convincing first place with 9 points.
Alexandra Kostenyuk, the new women's rapid world champion.
Nakamura facing off against Carlsen. We've been waiting for this pairing, and it couldn't have happened at a better time when everything is on the line.
Magnus moved his rook and no longer is trapping that king on the edge of the board.
Yeah, I mean, rook a5 is a pretty good move, but also king g2, as you said. And
Magnus gives it up. It's a draw, and the rules of the event stipulate that only the 2 players with the best tiebreak score will be allowed to play the playoff. Third place, then the bronze medal for Carlsen. It is Abdusatorov getting ready for the game. He will be facing Jan Nepomniachtchi of Russia. And Black's king doesn't manage to get back to defend the pawn. So Jan Nepomniachtchi is steering this game towards a draw. And that means Norderbeck is going to have the match ball with the white pieces in the next one. Nepomniachtchi getting rid of that last black pawn. Norderbeck
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Rapid Chess Championship for round 4. It's going to take a bit of a while for the round 4 to start. Meanwhile, we have this crazy position in the Hare Krishna, in the Parham Hare Krishna game. And let's just backtrack a few moments to understand what's going on. So we had this end game where white is a pawn up. White has one extra pawn, but black has these super tricky knights, crazy knights. And with b3, knight e3, this was the position where Hare Krishna threatened to take white's rook, but also to play knight c2 check, rook c8, and create a mating net. So knight e3, rook c1, rook c8, bishop f3, and chat. Here is the question: what was this move that Hare Krishna made in this position? This is a beautiful move, and the kind of content I look for my social media as well. So if you're just trying to improve chess, or if you're trying to really improve chess, or if you're just a social media content creator, or if you just want to have fun with chess, this move is really relevant. Black to play. What did Hare Krishna play here? Is anyone there in the chat? What is black's move? Yes, rook a1. Did you know that, Rupak, already? Have you seen it before? Or did you figure it out here? This rook a1 was a beautiful move. Rook to a1. What a move by Hare Krishna. If white takes rook into a1, knight c2 check, king a5, rook a8, checkmate. This is the point. And white just played the pawn to h5. He didn't need to react. This is also true for us in so many live situations. We don't need to react. We just sometimes need to maintain status quo and our problems dissipate. So this is what white did. G takes h5, G takes h5. So black is like, two can play this game. It's a pretty meditative game. He just calmly plays this king to b8. And for how many moves is the rook on a1 hanging? He played it on the 38th move. f5, a into f5, h6, g into h6. And this rook on a1 is still out there. It's still out there. Still, nothing has changed. And it's not easy for black. It's not easy for white to make a response here. It's not easy. h6, g into h6. But by now, rook into a1 becomes an option, and I think Parham will be itching to take this rook. Rook into a1, knight c2 check, king a5, king to b7, and now there's bishop into d5 check, knight into d5, and here is white's defensive move. The point behind all this variation. In all the other variations, after this the variation would end because rook 8 is an inevitable checkmate. But here the point is white has this move rook into h6, and after rook 8 check there is rook a6. So this is the reason why Parham was setting up things. He started off with f5, e takes f5, h6, g into h6. Now he gets his rook on to h6 towards defending this. So rook into a1 is one option. The other option is to just take rook into h6, give up his rook. He's like, two people can play this game. I can also leave my rook on price. I can also, leave it as it is. So rook into h6 is an option. And after rook into h6, rook into c1, rook into b6 check, king c7, rook a6. This variation goes on. And this is probably what Parham is thinking about. But meanwhile, we should get back to our Rapid Chess Championship, round 4. So we'll be back in a very, very short while, in about 30 seconds, with the round 4 of the Rapid Chess Championship. So do stay tuned.
Exactly. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a
very
free move. He made a free move. King G3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh.
He's
Power.
like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no.
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time.
Welcome back, guys, and thank you so much for your patience. We are back with the round 4 of the Rapid Chess Championship, and Bharat is playing against Georg Meyer this time. He has a nice position despite being pawned on, because these pawns are doubled. And knight f5, there's queen d4, knight h6 check, and similar ideas, but he's still pawned on, and this is what is helping black hold things together. And do you think Vidit is consciously experimenting with his repertoire in the event before the Olympiad? Well, if he was, it would still not be public information, so I'll plead the fifth on that one. And the true answer is I don't really know. Raunak seems to have a really nice position. Let's take this one from the beginning. Raunak with the black pieces, he started with e4, e5, the Scotch defense, the 4-knight Scotch, knight into d4, bishop b4, all this known stuff, knight into c6, b into c6, bishop d3, d5, e into d5, short castle, c into d5, h3. Now he goes rook f8, queen f3, rook b6, rook d1, bishop b7 with the idea of d4. White goes a3, bishop e7. And here Kovalev played b4, which was pretty suspect, because after d4, both the queen and the knight are attacked at once. Knight e4, rook e8, and at this point Kovalev had to take knight into f6 check, but instead he played bishop to b2. And now the point is, it's not so easy to take knight into f6 anymore, and Raunak immediately pounces on it with c5, pouncing on this pin. Knight into f6 check, bishop into f6, queen h5 attacking this pawn, g6, queen into c5. This was Kovalev's idea, except that he didn't count on Raunak's response, after which Raunak wins a lot of stuff. Which move is it by Raunak? Chat. Which move of Raunak did white miss here? I'm not sure if I'll be in the tournament for the torch or Sriyan, but I'll be there for the torch ceremony. Then I'll be there. But which move, chat? Which move did Kovalev miss here? Which Raunak saw? One move more, and as a result of which Kovalev is losing, and Raunak is marching towards his second win of the tournament. Do you see it? Which move is it? This Rapid Chess Championship is actually pretty interesting in a number of ways. There are so many of these quick wins, so many of these nice wins. Yes, Rohit, rook e5 is the move. Rook e5, and suddenly the queen is short of moves. Because of queen into d4, then there is rook e1 check. So rook e5, queen c4, bishop d5, queen into d4. Now the point is simply rook g5, attacking the g2 pawn and the queen together. And there's also the b2 bishop, which is hanging eventually. So white just gives up the queen. But after bishop into d4, rook into d4, black has got a queen for just a bishop, not even a rook, just a bishop. And Raunak is just so winning here, so winning. and I think he should take this one. So Ronak is winning this one. Bharat, look at Bharat, guys. Look at Bharat. This is the final position. Let's take it from where we left. Knight f5, a into b4, a into b4, rook c8, queen b4, knight e6 was played by Georg Maya. Already he's in trouble here. He shouldn't have allowed this queen d4, but queen d4, knight e6. He kind of played this unwittingly, and once again Bharat had this beautiful move. I think we can put this all in the highlight stream. So many spectacular highlight moves by the players in this Rapid Chess Championship. And queen d4, knight e6. This is the point. What is White's winning move here, chat? How does White win? And I guess some of you have already seen the game, so this one's an easy one for you guys. So Raunak's opponent missed rook e5. Bharat's opponent missed this one particular move, which just finishes off the game, and both of them are winning. And I guess we just need to see the Harika game after this one, where yes, knight h6 check is the move. Knight h6 check, super strong move. The point being that after g into h6 there's queen h8 check, and this is a very uncharacteristic miss for Georg Maya. So knight h6 check, king h8, knight f7, king g8. And the problem is, after knight into d8, black also wins the queen back, but in the end white just wins this piece, and he can just start with rook into c8, because after bishop into c8 there's bishop d5 check, knight f7 check, and then bishop into d4. So rook into c8, and now this bishop d5 check. He tries to save it with rook e6, but rook e1, and this knight is also trapped. There's no place for the knight to go. This bishop controls everything. So at this point he just resigned. Georg Maya just resigned, and White won the game. Looking at the Harika Durarbeli game, look at Harika. She has lost 2 games in a row, but she's still playing an opponent about 2600. That's how monstrously strong this tournament is. And Harika with the white pieces, not off to a great start. She has this pawn on e6, and she's I think a pawn up, but look at these pieces. They are so totally out of the game. With knight e3, she attacks the rook and tries to get the knight to f5, but black can just defend it with rook f4, defending everything. This knight doesn't get to f5, and something like queen f4 is also pretty interesting. The idea of queen h2, queen f4, g3, queen e5, and taking the e7 pawn. But most worryingly for Harika, she has only there's a 2-minute advantage for Vasif here, and Raunak is marching his way towards the win, but surprisingly low on time. I think he still hasn't quite figured out how to find his way here. This bishop on d5 pinned, all the pieces on the d5 pinned. He can do something like this, but after rook into g2, king f1, there is this threat of rook d8 check. This is nasty. And the computer line here, computer just nonchalantly plays rook g1 check, giving up the rook, queen g5 check, king f1, and here the move is not queen g2 check, but bishop g2 check. This one's hard, and this is not findable in a game with this time control. So Raunak not going here. Instead he plays the rook to e5. The point being that if white takes bishop d5, he simply takes it. It's not such a deadly pin, and c4 is not a threat. White will probably go f3 and now rook d7, with the idea that after c4, if you go bishop e6 directly, then there's rook d7, bishop into e5. So you have to start with rook into e4, f into e4, and then play bishop e6. And now this is winning for black. So this is what Ronak has probably seen. F3 and F5 on board. Also with the same idea that if white attacks the e5 rook, then black just takes it, and after c4 there's e3. So yeah, the variation still goes rook d5. It's actually more complex, I guess. This is more complex, but in the end it is working out for Ronak. So Ronak is winning this one. Oh wow, Parham has finally taken Hari's rook. Let's have a quick look at that. How did that go? Rook into a1 happened, knight c2 check, king a5, king b7. Oh yeah, we covered all this. This is exactly what happened, right? Rook in h6 happened, and now Hare Krishna takes rook into c3. So the game goes on. The game goes on, but actually, guys, this is not so easy for white. The game goes on, but yeah, the rook is attacked, and where does the rook go? Because there's still the threat of rook into b3, rook a3. Let's say the rook goes to c1, rook into b3, and now rook a3 is checkmate. So rook into c2, there's rook a3. Rook h4, there's rook a3. And black is crushing this. Rook into h6, rook into c3. If the rook goes to a2, then the point is rook into b3 is not so deadly now because a3 is covered, but black has knight d4, and all of these pawns are being hit. It's a devastating position. Why didn't Hare Krishna play knight takes a1 here, Rupak? Because of knight into d5, yeah? Then it becomes equal. Rook 8 check, there's rook a6, and white is actually a pawn up. Black will win back one of the pawns, but f5 and f7 are pretty weak. So this is the reason why he didn't do this. But rook into c3, we'll get back to this. We'll see what Parham plays, but not going to be easy for him the rest of the game as well. He still has some work to do before he can make a draw. Beautiful game by Hare Krishna. I just hope there is more of this in the Olympiad. Getting back to the Ronak game, Ronak has won as expected. So he moves to 3 out of 4 along with Bharat. And Harika, on the other hand, is fighting for survival against Vasif because she's just 2 pawns down. These 2 pawns. Not the prettiest looking pawns, but they work. They are functional. And if white can take knight into c4, she's totally okay. But that's not the case. a5, bishop f4, knight f5 attacking the rook a4 next. The c4 pawn will fall, but what will not change much is the 1 minute lead that Vasif has on the clock. That's going to get very tricky for Harika to handle, and it's a massive lead. It's a massive lead in this time control. When you have only 3 minutes and in that you have 1 minute down, then you have like what, 1/3 of the time compared to your opponent having 2/3 of the time. And now maybe this rook goes to b3, attacking this pawn. The c4 pawn is lost, but the rook can go to b3 and attack the b5 pawn. And it's not going to be easy for black to, it's not going to be easy for white to defend this. So rook b3 is going to be a bit of bother for Harika. Oh, he just goes rook d3, takes rook into h3. A few quick moves happening there. Now this bishop will just slide back to d6, and the king comes to f7, the king comes to f6. There is no increment. It's a rapid chess championship. In The Parham game, yes, there is increment, but this game there's no increment. And Parham has made his move. He did find the best defense after a good long think. That was, I think, expected from Parham. He's actually an incredibly good defender and a very strong player in general. So that was expected. And also Parham had recently defeated Hari Krishna and forged his way into the 2700 club in a Bundesliga game earlier this year. Now I think, yeah, just bishop d2, there's rook f2 check, then this rook goes to h2, b2 in fact, with the idea of rook h1 check, and Harika has resigned. So that's the end of round 4, guys. And at the end of round 4, let's have a look at the standings, which we can now. Hikaru leading with 4 out of 4. Surprise, surprise, but actually not. Andrik in there with 3.5, and then bunch of people on 3, including Ronak and Bharat. So we have only 3 Indians playing, but 2 of them out there in joint second place, joint third place with 3 out of 4. And behind them are such elite players like Dubo and Matlako. And even down there are people like Grischuk, who lost his first 2 rounds against Jumagaev and Sugiro. So Grischuk out there with 2 out of 4. And we have some pretty strong players with 1.5 out of 4 as well. Like, for example, Sugiro Sanan with 26.96 but 1.5 out of 4. And that's the story so far. 52 players started out, but I think only 48 are playing right now. And that's the end of round 4, guys. We'll be quickly back after a break as soon as round 5 begins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, no! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a
very
pre-move! He made a pre-move! King g3!
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there. Yep, that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10+2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making some mistakes and inaccuracies. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind in terms of what I was trying to do.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the round 5 of the Rapid Chess Championship. And we have the all-Indian encounter, Ronak against Bharat. Chat, who are you rooting for, Ronak or Bharat? Both the players are teenagers, very strong teenage players here, and both of them incredibly strong. And Ronak has started with 1e4. Ronak is a big rating favorite in this game. He's at 26-20. Bharat, on the other hand, fell below 2500 after becoming a GM. But in the Rapid Chess Championship format, Bharat has been improving very rapidly. And he's not going to make it easy for Ronak. And I recently played against Bharat, and I think he has improved a lot in the last few years, which has not reflected in his rating because of not having a lot of tournaments post-pandemic. Oh, so we have one comment for Ronak and one for Bharat. Meanwhile, what's the update on the Hari Krishna game? So Parham did manage to play rook a4, guys. This was the only move that saved Parham here. And now Hari Krishna goes knight c3. The point being that rook c4 was an important defensive idea of rook a4. rook a4, rook c4, and with knight e3, Hare Krishna prevents this rook from coming to c4. So the line is likely to go rook h7, rook c5, rook into f7 check, knight c7. And this rook c5 itself is not totally natural, I should say. Rook into b3 is what I would have looked at first. Rook into f7 check, knight c7. And now white has this defensive move rook b4. And I see this, and then I'll come back all the way. Knight e3, rook h7, rook into rook c5, rook into f7 check. And this knight goes to c7. Now rook b4. Black will take this pawn and now try and promote this f pawn. As long as this f pawn is alive, black has some hopes and white has to be really careful. For instance, a move like king a4 here, knight d5, and suddenly this rook doesn't have a good square to go. And rook d4, natural move, but king d6, and black starts coming in with his king and his pieces. So very easy for computer to defend this, but far from easy for a human being. And Parham already goes wrong according to the computer. e6 not the best move in this position apparently, because after f into e6, rook into e6, rook into b3, this one's not so easy again apparently. Not obvious for a human, but this rook on a4 trapped, the rook goes to d4, there's rook a3 check, rook a4, and finally there's this beautiful mate by black in this position. What is this mate, chat? Once again, here is another question for you. Black to play, and there's mate in one, and for this reason this rook on a4 is bound to be on a4 in this position. And this is just such a beautiful game, chat, don't you think? This is such a beautiful game by Hare Krishna, and in general it's filled with so much beauty. Rook a3 check, there's rook a4, and now black to play. What move do you make, chat? Black to play and win. Wow, I didn't expect that from Anshika. Anshika found knight c4. Wow. Yes, knight c4 is checkmate, and this is the reason why this rook is stuck here. With the rook stuck here, black has a bit of a free pass, you know, f4, f3, f2, f1, and white will try to give a check with rook g6, but here it's not going to be easy for Parham to draw here, guys. This is just so beautiful, starting from rook a1. But yeah, this is the status update. F into e6, rook into e6, this is the live position. Hare Krishna will take on b3. Not going to be easy for white to save this one, even for Parham. Getting back to the Raunak Bharat game, the All Indian Derby, this looks so fighting and complex. Queen g5 chess played by Bharat, and Raunak is playing this one pretty fast, but Bharat has a totally okay position, and Bharat is smart enough to I think not go low on time and not give Raunak too much of the time advantage. Queen g5. Anshika, you have to change your Twitter bio now. That's not fair. You can't say, what's your Twitter bio again? It's something like I don't remember. Not a chess player. I think we have to change that one. If you're finding moves like knight c4, it's not fair to have not a chess player. And also the way you're flagging people in 3+2, it's not fair. So Queen g5, rook g1 happened, and another question for black is which bishop to give up, the a7 bishop or the e6 bishop, to give up or not to give up. and people read bio, Anshika, not just the NEET students. Normal people also do read all different kinds of bio. Although I guess we are talking about different bios here, but yeah, they do read up. Rook G1 defending the pawn on G2, and now, yeah, the question is bishop into C5. Nice one, hydrophobic. Yeah, I should write not a chess flagger. I'm not sure about. I should write that, right? Yeah, I should write that. I'm the one who gets flagged. Getting back to the chess part though, it wasn't an easy decision for Bharat to take here, and therefore he takes a bit of time, which gives us time to have a quick look at the Harika game with the black pieces against young Keiki, and white is a comfortable pawn up. What happened? What went wrong for Harika? I think it went wrong at this point. D into e6, bishop into e6. This was a difficult position after queen d2, but with queen b6, she kind of just gave up this pawn. a5 attacking the queen, forcing the queen off from the b2 pawn, and then white just calmly collects the h6 pawn, wins with queen into h6, and this is such a disastrous position for black. She's a pawn down, the king is under fire. Let's not make ourselves sad by looking at this longer than necessary, as it's not one of our games. So we have the option to change, and we are back to the Raunak Bharat game. It's kind of interesting because Raunak's dad's name is also Bharat. So Raunak is playing against Bharat, and a very pretty draw has been found in the Hare Krishna game. So Hare Krishna played f4, a pretty human move, and here Parham finds a beautiful draw. Rook into f4, knight into f4, rook b6 check. The point being that the king is forced onto this point. Guys, this is not a draw. This is not a draw, is it? Is this a draw? With the pawns on, it's not a draw. With one pawn, it's actually not a draw. So then why is the computer screaming 0.00 here? Oh, how is this a draw? It's not a draw. What's happening? King c7? It's not a draw, guys. It's not a draw. It's not a draw. And king into c6, b4, knight c4 check. And with this pawn on, it's not a draw. I think even Hare Krishna must be perplexed here why Parham took this, because this is not a draw with this pawn. And two knights against a king and a pawn. Why black can win this, because what you do is you just drive this king towards the corner, you block the pawn with one of your knights, you drive this king towards the corner, and usually without the pawn it's a stalemate, but with the pawns it for instance let me explain. Let's block this pawn. This pawn is blocked now at b5, so white doesn't have stalemate. And now with my king and knight, I drive your king to a corner. Like I drive it step by step. I won't move this knight. I'll just move my knight, and with the king, I drive it to the corner. And so the white king will of course fight. He will go to the other corner, and this will go on for some time. But I will manage to get it in the corner sooner or later. And when that happens, finally what will happen is it will go into a situation like this with the king in the corner, and now without the knight it would be a stalemate, but with the knights this kind of a position will eventually be a win. This knight will come and mate in a few moves. So black has to set it up like this, and then he should make his knight move. And when this one, I agree that I'm not doing a great job explaining this one out, but just need a bit of a time to get there. But with the pawn, it's possible to win. I'm not entirely sure if this is winning though. That also needs to be checked. Back to the Raunak Bharat game. We will stay with this one for some time till this one ends. But really curious if this is a draw or not. And on the other side, I am looking at this position of Hare Krishna and checking if it's a draw or not. What an intriguing position this is though. Yeah, okay. This is the position. King on c7. While king on a5. And knights on e3 and f4. The pawn on b3 and c6. Pawn on b3, c6, and it's black to play. And let's calculate this. How do I... okay, this one's a draw, guys. I got excited for no reason. This one's a draw. And I think I got a bit hastily excited. Misled by the comp well there. Meanwhile, this position is totally okay for Bharat, but he's down on time. He needs to be careful. And Raunak's not going to make it any easy for Bharat with less time. He really needs to speed up here. Really needs to speed up. He can't keep playing with the speed. The moves actually took a bit of a while to get updated here, chat, and we are getting some super fast updates. Bharat is speeding up. He has a really nice position, and I don't really expect him to lose this one. I think Bharat is totally okay here, and it's not a bad position for Raunak either, but it's clear that black is the one who's fighting here. Any chance of Parham making a mistake? We'll get to that after the end of this game, which will end pretty shortly. Now, the chances of Parham making a mistake is, I think it's possible. I wouldn't rule it out. At least he's not going to make a draw that easily. We know that for sure. What a masterpiece of a game this has been by Hare Krishna though. It's just beauty. Beauty. But also I think it's not that likely, the probability of a mistake, because it's not so easy for the moves, the number of options for black is limited. Sorry, the number of options for white So when you don't have a lot of options, there's less chance of making a mistake. People make mistakes when they have options. That's when they can go wrong. So I think oh, f6. Does this allow some rook into f6? Queen into f6, rook h1 check, king g3, queen g1 check, king f3, and now there's rook into h3. But there is some rook g2. I think this is what Bharat is calculating. Rook into f6. Beautiful move. And this looks bad for Ronak, guys. This looks super bad for Ronak, who would really struggle in the standings if he loses this one. And we have this position, queen g1 check. King f3 would lose after rook h3 and rook e3 check. So rook g2 is the only move. But now queen e3 check, queen f3. And queen into d4 is queen f7 check. Black will likely take rook into h3, queen f3 check. He goes for it. King into h3, queen f3, king h2, queen to f6. And it's a lot of pawns for Bharat. But it's still very less time. Ronak putting that pressure on the clock is one of his signature moves. And now he'll play rook c4, rook c6. It's not easy for Bharat to find the best moves here with time trouble. Already after rook c4, it's not so easy to play the best move. He plays rook d3 though. And now Bharat starts advancing his pawn. Once this pawn comes to h4, there is the deadly threat of queen g3. And Ronak gets going with rook c6, but queen f4, very strong move. Queen e4 check. d6 would be met by queen e4 check. And yeah, queen f4, probably white has to go rook c3 here, queen e5 check. The king has to go to d1 or d2. And still some difficult problems for Bharat to solve here before he wins this one. This pawn on g3 is moving fast, but there is this pawn on d5 to contend with. But this pawn is queening first, and there will be a check as well. So after d7, there is potentially... Oh, he just goes g1 queen. Now how does he mate? He just takes this rook. Maybe he just takes this rook, and then there's queen g5 check, queen g6, queen... Oh, there's a beautiful move here. There's a beautiful move, which Ronak didn't see with less time, of course, but there was this amazing move there, guys. But anyway, now there will be a very quick series of moves, guys. And time is also going to play a factor, but shouldn't... Bharat is totally taking this one, and Bharat has won this Indian Derby. Now this was the point where there was the saving attempt with rook g4 check, just giving up the rook, Parham style, h into g4, and now queen h8 check. King g6, because if you take on h8, it's a stalemate. So king g6, and now you just give the queen up. You just take everything and give the queen up. Rook g4 check was this amazing move. Black had to go queen g6 check and try to defend, but this would have been beautiful if Ronak had spotted it. But with the amount of time he had, this was too tough. And Bharat moves to 4 out of 5. Ronak stays at 3. Meanwhile, Harika has lost her game, so she's at 1 out of 5. And the Harikrishna Parham game should probably end in a draw, I guess. So the 50 move rule starts from this point. Not many moves, but the thing is, it's so hard for the king and knight to drive this king towards the corner. And I was also struggling to achieve that, and without being able to do that, it's not going to be easy for black to make this draw here. So sorry, it's not going to be easy for black to try for a win here. So I guess he's totally safe. Meanwhile, look at the updated standings on the Rapid Chess Championship. Hikaru leading with 5 out of 6. Oh, the round 6 has started and Hikaru's already drawn his game. Wow, these guys are very fast. Let's have a look at the round 6 games here. Bharat is playing against Dmitry Andreikin and Ronak. Who is Ronak playing against? Did I miss Ronak here somewhere? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I missed him somewhere. Where are you? I found Harika, who has another French defense, this time against Shu England. She had something similar against Gyogmaya. There we found Ronak, who's playing black against Pavel Pankarto. This is Bharat against Andreikin, who defeated Ronak in the previous RCC knockout with a dastardly trick in the end. And we have Shu Yinglun against Harika. Meanwhile, guys, let's stick to this Hare Krishna game because I think this one's going to end pretty soon. Parham's totally confident here. The king goes back and forth. B7, C7, B7, C7, B7, C7. And there's no way for black to make progress here. Knight D7, King B7, King D6 is one way to prevent this, but then this king goes to A7 and A6 and A5 and B4. And the problem for Hare Krishna is that he doesn't really have a way to drive this white king towards the corner without involving this knight in the chase. So back to our Rapid Chess Championship. Here we are, and back to this point, Harika has one of the standard opening positions which became known several years ago, but the thing is, what is old and forgotten is new, because we have forgotten a tenet, so it's no longer out there fresh in our memory, it's no longer out there in our knowledge base, and therefore it becomes new. So I think that's what happened here, and black is not able to quite remember his prep. How's Bharat doing? Bharat is the top performing Indian out there today, but Andreikin is an opponent. He's a different beast, and he's very strong. Actually, he's very, very strong. And out here, he the position is equal, but this position favors black just a bit more because of these pawns on the queen side. It's a bit hard to explain, but yeah, it's a bit better for black here. Bit hard to explain why this b4 pawn is so important, why it's a weakness, but it is a weakness. And I think we're getting the tuk-tuk sounds from this point, where Hare Krishna has made quite a bit of progress, by the way, huh? Hare Krishna has made quite a bit of progress getting this king out, and apparently this king h6 is a mistake. Apparently it's a mistake, and now it's a mate in 18 or made in 20, guys. I see what Hari is doing. So now king goes to h5. We create an opposition. King g7, king g5. And now what if king h7? Like, now what if king to h7? This engine is totally useless. Let's just use our brain. So king h5, king g7, king g5 played by Hari. And now king h7 is the move I expect from Parham, and he's like, show me the money, show me the win. Where is it? Where is your win? And this requires a bit of technique. It's called scissoring. I actually made it up. But the point is, this knight goes to g4 and comes to h6. So I was actually pretty wrong about this, blatantly wrong. First I was excited it's a win when it was actually a draw. But then when someone asked if there's a chance for Parham to make a mistake, I said it's less likely. Again, I turned out that I was wrong here because it's a pretty high chance of making a mistake. And now he needs to find this maneuver, getting the knight to h6. And he has found it. He gets his knight to f7. And don't just ignore the computer here, guys. But the point is, you have to keep scissoring this king. So this knight goes to d6 here probably. You don't want to allow it to f7. You don't want to allow it to g8. So the knight goes to d6. King h7. There's knight to f5. Taking the g7 square as well. And this total scissoring, like you use the knight like a pair of scissors. So this knight is one head, this knight is the other one, but this knight will join like the chief guest at the very end. So this knight will do all the groundwork. King h7, knight f5, king g8, king f6. And then finally, when it's time to deliver the checkmate. Now, if you guys watched the Bahubali movie, a lot of you must have watched, then Prabhas, he did all this groundwork. He went near the opposition king. And then at the very end, the finishing blow was done by Rana. So this knight is like Rana. And this knight is like Prabhas. This will do all the groundwork. Fortunately, these knights are not in a race to become a king. So there's not going to be a civil war for black. But now, king to f6. If the white... Yeah, king f6 played. Now, if the white king goes to f8, then knight g7. Okay, take all the squares away from the white king. Don't let it go there. So then this king will run here, right? But now you take the f8 square. So the king will be like, oh my god, I lost everything. No, wait, I have a final set of place to run to. I have the h file, I'll run here. But now this king will go to g5 and cut off that point as well. The king will be like, oh, but I have the h8 square, I'll be here. King to g6. King to g8, knight, and now it's time for our hero. Who's the hero? It's this b6 knight. So he goes knight d5, and this knight can either go to f6 check or e7 check, and then finally knight g5. And before this pawn can queen, knight f7 is checkmate. So this is the fable of the two knights and a king, and this is how the final checkmate is going to happen in the Hare Krishna Parham game. So this is how it's going to happen, and now Hare Krishna is inching towards his final blow, making the final calculation. Yes, he brings his knight out. This knight will go to f8 next, imprison this king on h8, and this knight will go to h4 and g6 or e7 and g6, and it's going to be checkmate. Powerful knights, and this is so totally like the Bahubali fight in the movie. In different languages there are different terms, but I think you guys get the gist of it. And yeah guys, this is like GG, game over. This is such a beautiful win by Hari Krishna. What a game. What a beautiful game, starting with rook a1. Oh man, I just can't stop fanboying Hari's game today. What a game. What a game. Chat, maza aaya ki nahi? What a game, no? And Parham has resigned. He has resigned and Hari Krishna has won this. Hari OP in the chat, guys. I know there are not a lot of people in the chat, but this was just mind-blowing performance by Hari. This rook on a1. And now getting back to this question, the Rapid Chess Championship, Bharat is holding on against Andrekin. Meanwhile, Raunak is also doing pretty well against Pavel Pancrato. His knight on g5 looks dangerous, but it's kind of stymied. Rook into b2, rook b3 incoming. There's also threats of queen d2 here, so it's actually black's king who is weaker compared to white's. And Harika is not having the tournament offer. She's just not having a great tournament here, and I think we should just get back to the Bharat and Rikin game, where it's a pretty interesting endgame. There is this d4, c5 and b6, the pawns on d5, c6 and b7, the contrast between the two, and g4 is a very nice, neat little move, helping the bishop stay on this diagonal. Actually, it's not even clear if black is better anymore, because this bishop will stay on this diagonal, white will get access to the a file, and it's actually not so easy to play as black here. I'm still a bit stuck on this Hare Krishna game. That was like amazing, legendary, and we're just out of words to describe what a performance that was by Hari. But coming back to this endgame of Bharat is also doing an amazing job. Looks set to go towards the knockout. He has 4 out of 5, and I think his Title Tuesday loss against me in the last round, the previous week, was one of the lowest points in his career. And then he probably decided, okay, the only way from here is up. And oh, now there's rook into a8, and this b7 pawn is about to fall. And I think the point is rook d1, rook a7, rook bishop a6, rook, and now there is rook into a6, b into a6, and b7. So this is the point. Rook d1, rook a7, and bishop a6 is no longer an option. Probably what Andrekin missed from far. And now after rook d1, rook a7, he's in massive trouble here. He's in massive trouble. He can take this d4 pawn, but look at this pawn and look at this pawn. This b6 pawn is so advanced, and this d5 pawn is nowhere close. So while Hari showed remarkable mastery in Prague, Bharat is not doing so bad either in the World Wide Web, and he seems set to go towards 5 out of 6. King g3, rook into d4, rook into b7. rook c4, and now rook into c5. Still some technical problems for Bharat to solve here. Rook a7, rook into c5, and if b7 there's rook b5, bishop c8 with the idea of rook a8. I think this is where I expect the game to go towards. In fact, we have the moves happening as we speak. b7 and now bishop c8, rook a8, b8. I don't see how black defends here actually. Rook a8 and b8 is coming. There's no way to defend against this. You can try to push this pawn and try to distract white, kind of, like rook a8, like d4, rook a8, d3, queens, rook into b8, rook into b8, and d2, and this bishop goes to e2. And we know from the last week game that Andreken is going to keep defending and will not stop till the final trick. He's not going to stop. And now it's actually not easy for Bharat to find a way. This d4 is a pretty nice way to defend, pretty nice way to resist. So not so easy for Bharat to take things forward here. Let's see how he does it. I don't see an easy way. Meanwhile, I do expect a roaring finish from Raunak here. So Bharat goes for f3, d3, king f2, bringing his king into the game, but d2 is going to happen, and then this rook has to come all the way back. He can't do this rook a8. That will give black enough time to go take his bishop out and defend the b7 pawn here. So Bharat is not winning anymore. How's Raunak doing meanwhile? Oh, Raunak's game has changed around. This is not going to be Raunak's week, guys. This has changed around with queen a7. The threat was queen h7. Raunak defends with rook h2, defending the h7 point. King g3, rook to h6, and now rook f4 is one option. g7 is another option. Not so easy to find with less time, but it's not impossible to find either. And I think Punkrato will find this one. And I think g7 is also a pretty human move. g7, bishop to g7, and now queen b8 check. Actually, it's not easy to find, guys. It's not so easy to find. Rook h6, now it's not so easy. But rook f4, the point is if rook into g6, there's queen h7 mate. So rook f4 is, I guess, findable because it's nothing concrete. And there he goes. He goes rook f4. But Raunak can keep the game going. He can just move the rook to h1. Let's see what he does. This is actually quite thrilling, this game. So is the Bharat Andreken game, but so is this one. It's actually not easy to... Queen d3 check loses. Rook f3. Rook f3, and this is losing. Yes, queen d5, and now rook to f5. Queen has to go to d3, and after knight f3 there are no checks anymore. So I think this should lose. And Punkrato is someone who is actually pretty strong in this facet of the game, the complications aspect. So I expect him to be able to find this and take this one home. But what happened? What happened to the... Oh, he couldn't. He was not able to find it. And then he lost it completely, guys. He lost it completely. And Raunak is the one winning here. Raunak is winning on time. He's winning on game. What a thrilling game that was. But in the end, Raunak takes it. He moves to 4 out of 6. Keeps his chances of knockout alive. And finishes it off with a mate. Meanwhile, the Bharat Andreken game ends in a draw. As expected, it was a very interesting game. Andreken had a bit of an initial advantage, and then Bharat was pressing, and in the end this goes into a draw. So that's the end of round 6, guys. The round 6 is over, and Hikaru has 5 out of 6. He's in the lead. Bharat at 6th place with 4.5, and Raunak in the 7th place with 4. Bharat plays against Sarana with the white pieces, and Raunak plays against Dig Bogdan Daniel with the white pieces as well, I think. Yeah. We'll be back after a very short break in time for the first moves of round 7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a free move. He made a free move. King G3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's like
far.
defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life, and I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes. There's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the 10+2 game, I mean, I was much worse. But then when he got to about like 10 seconds, he started making some mistakes and inaccuracies. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind in terms of what I was trying to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! He dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a free move. He made a free move. King G3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's
far.
like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life, and I think he just lost the piece.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the round 7 of the Rapid Chess Championship presented by Coinbase. And Bharat, the leading Indian after 6 rounds with 4.5 out of 6. He plays against Grandmaster Alexei Sarana, a very strong GM. And Bharat has white pieces for the second time. Goes towards his Queen's Gambit decline positions, the 1 d4 positions, his default position. And here it's a Carlsbad pawn structure. So white has these 2 pawns, and it's pretty symmetrical except white has a pawn on the e file, black has a pawn on the c file, and Sarana makes early provisions in order to restrict white from getting his minority attack. So the alternate plan here is to play f3 and e4. But with this knight on f3, it's not ideal climate for that, and black is pretty okay here. Meanwhile, the other Indian game, Raunak against Dig Bogdan Daniel. Raunak has had a super patchy day today. He started off with a losing position in round 1, and since then it has been a bit hither-thither, but he's kept going, and he finally managed to win the 6th round, and he stays in contention with 4 out of 6, but he needs to get his wins going. He's usually in a pretty cozy situation in this situation towards the final rounds, where a draw is enough for him to win the tournament. But today is not so easy. It's not going to be so easy for him to finish off in the knockouts, finish off with the qualification in the knockouts, because he needs to get a few wins going. And he might probably still qualify with 6 out of 9, but it's not totally clear for me. So he's going for it. He's going for it with g4, h takes g4, queen takes g4, and now knight to f6, queen h3, and knight to h5, and everything is defended for black here, and he's pretty much under control. So he takes h into g4, and Ronak starts with knight into d7. The point being, after queen into d7, queen g4, you don't have this knight coming to h5, and h5 is h5 is a legit threat here. So h5 king h7. The way minority attack works, Hydrofabric, is if you look at a structure like this, then this part is pretty weak. So when black goes b5, b4 and takes b into c3, this pawn ends up being a backward pawn. It doesn't really create a parser for the opponent. Now in this position, the knight on d3 prevents it from prevents b4 from happening. But in general, that's how the minority attack works. Meanwhile, Ronak making some real progress here. This knight will come to e5, after which bishop at f6 is a deadly threat. Bishop at f6 combined with the knight coming to d7, and it's not going to be easy for black to defend against this idea. So knight e5, black might take bishop into g5 practically, and now after h into g5, it's a pretty strong attack. Ronak goes with the knight to f4. Also pretty interesting. He's eyeing these weak pawns, and not again. I don't see an easy move for black here. I don't see an easy way for black to find this one out. So Deek under definite pressure. He's under some serious real pressure, and this one's going to be super tough for black to be able to defend. Harika not having the best of tournaments, but she's fighting on. She hasn't given up, she hasn't withdrawn, and I think this one she has some pretty promising chances. A typical King's Indian attack. Her f file is open, and the pawn coming to h4, opening up files against the white king. The queen side not so much under threat, so she's doing fine here. And getting back to the Bharat game, Bharat is kind of a bit under pressure. Black has this pretty nice pawn structure. Look at this design. Look at these pawns, the 4 pawns and the 3 pawns here. It's a pretty nice design, and yes, Bharat could win an exchange like this, but black wins it back instantly. And now queen b2, knight into b1, bishop into b1, and then there's queen into f8. It's a pretty tough position for black to play here. So it's a pretty tough position for white to play here. So white will win this piece, black will win this piece, and finally this finally black is just an exchange up. So how did he lose this exchange? It happened sometime around this point where he sacrificed it with knight e5, but probably missed this knight c4 move. At this point it looked good. c6 is attacked, knight g6 is a threat, but knight c4, knight g6, and after knight a3, this is just clearly better for black. Tough game for Bharat here. Let's get back to the Ronak game. We left it here. Black, oh, knight into h4. This is neat. This is nice. Not the any 80. This is any 80. Neat. Bishop into f6, queen into f6, rook e3, bringing the rook onto the game. But just knight f5, rook h3, and now the king prepares to run away. Rook e1, king d8, rook to h7, keeping the king in this corner, and Dick Bogdan has just played the king back to g8, king f8, the king looking to run away desperately. Ronak has a lot of time though, and he has some real chances of creating some dangerous threats here. So pressure. One option is to, after oh, there's something pretty beautiful here, guys. Now this queen on f6 has no square, but if you go knight h5, there's queen e7. So white starts with rook into e6, f into e6, and now knight h5, and now there's no way for the queen to go. So this is an option, but I don't expect this to be found in a game with this time control. What Ronak did, rook e5, far more human. But still a 3-minute advantage, only 3 minutes for his opponent. I think Ronak knows exactly what he's doing, and he has kind of mastered this format, the RCC format. So rook e5. Now the initial plan to run away with the king e8, rook to h7, it runs into problems here because after king d7 there's always rook into e6. So what Ronak is doing is he's just making it difficult for his opponent to make moves here. He's keeping up the pressure, and I have a feeling that he's going to win this. If he wins this, he's going to move to 5 out of 7, and that's going to be from that it's going to be pretty easy to get to 6 out of 9. So Ronak is really tightening the screws here for his opponent, and showing how it's done in the Rapid Chess Championship. It's a mix of speed and accuracy. Too much accuracy at the cost of time. That's what happened to Timur in the first round against Ronak. Too much speed at the cost of accuracy. That's what happens to me in a lot of games when I try to play fast. And now Deke, it doesn't bode well that he's spending so much time here over this move. He's spending a lot of time, and this something has to give here for black sooner or later. He's going to face these deadly problems. You can't go to 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes in a non-incremental time format like this. It's a recipe for disaster, and black is literally asking for it. Rook a8 played after a long think, and Ronak instantly playing the rook to h7. b5 trying to get some counterplay. I do expect some rook into e6 to happen sometime pretty soon. Just 80 seconds for black here. With 80 seconds for black, there's just so little time. I'm still a bit hungover by the Hare Krishna game, by the way. What a beautiful game. What a beautiful game. After the 7th round break, the first thing I'm gonna do is congratulate him on a spectacular performance. But chat, do you expect rook into e6 here? Or the other idea is to go knight h3, knight g5, try and create threats on the f7 point. Ronak, for now, he just defends the b2 pawn. He's like, probably Deke was preparing against all these different sacrifices. He was anticipating that. So Ronak makes all of it futile by just defending the b2 pawn. And there's a long way to go, guys. It's a long drawn out game. a4, now rook to e2, making way for knight e5, making way for knight c5. a3 will be met by b4. With king g8, Deke vacates, he evicts the most dangerous piece. Queen h3, he's keeping it on. a3, and now rook b1 check. Rook b1 check is a deadly threat, but after king g2, then what? And rook b1 check, there's also simply rook e1. and it's only 40 seconds. Only 40 seconds for black here. Everything under control in terms of the position. Everything under control in terms of objective evaluation, but in terms of clock, black has nothing under control. Black is completely losing here. There's queen g5. Oh, knight e5 with the idea of hitting f7, but this comes under knight into d4. Quickly snapped up by Deek, but I guess the point is after. Oh yeah, rook e1, nice move. And now rook into f7 is a threat, and black is really struggling here to find a move. I don't see what move he has in this position. He's really struggling, and he's going to get flagged. Oh, yeah, right. Knight f3 check. Knight f3 check. Knight into f3. Rook into c3, and black is just getting flanked, guys. He's just getting flanked. He goes rook b8, but there's not even a point. He has 16 seconds, and rook into f7 is coming, and he'll resign in a few moves. So Ronak, yeah, queen h7 check, game over. It's a crushing win by Ronak. Too slow by Deek. Too slow, and moving on to the Bharat Sarana game. Bharat is holding on. He had a bad position, but now there's no way for black to break through here. So maybe Bharat, he's not going to lose this one. The computer shows -2. I guess the winning plan has something to do with c5, but with only 2 minutes remaining, not easy for black to show the path, to show it over the board. He has too little time, and there's no way for black to actually find a way to create something here. So this looks like a draw, which means we'll have 2 Indians in 5 out of 7, guys, which means we are going to see some Indians in the knockout championship tomorrow. This is exciting, and I have long dreamt of having 2 Indians in the knockouts, and tomorrow might be the day. This is fun. This is a lot of fun. Chad, what do you think? Is there going to be 2 Indians in the RCC knockouts this time? Is there going to be 2 Indians? What are your thoughts? What are your predictions? Is it possible? Is this finally going to happen? It has come close a few times. Last week, Ronak finished 8th and Arjun finished 10th. So we have come close. Yeah, this one's a draw, and expected draw, but Harika is just completely lost here. It just hasn't been Harika's day, and I don't know how she got into this position. She has only 36 seconds, and she's completely losing. 2 nines down. Meanwhile, a quick look at the standings. Hikaru leading there with 5 out of 7, but we find 2 Indians in the top 8, Ronak and Bharat, and we know what Ronak is going to do in the next 2 rounds. He's going to make a couple of quick draws and claim a spot in the top 8. Of course, this is not complete. A couple of other games going on still. Andrekin is playing against Sechev, and they both have 4.5 points. And Svirsh is playing against Muradli, also within means of catching up with Ronak. But I think 6 out of 9 should be enough to get into the top 8. Although Ronak has a bad tie break this week, not having the best of starts. But it was not such a bad start either. He came to 3 out of 4, and then the loss against Bharat setting him back. It's just a bad start by Raunak's standards. It's lofty high standards. Otherwise, it's been a pretty decent start from Ronak, and he really understands. He knows how to play this format. He's just very good at it, and all the practice of playing Arena Kings non-incremental chess is also coming in handy. And just to give context, here's Grishchuk with 3 points, and we have Ronak at 5. Grishchuk has played one game less. His game is still going on against Durar Bailey, but still, I think it's pretty creditable. Both Ronak and Bharat. And meanwhile, Harika with 1.5 out of 7. But what is really distinguishing her? If you look at this, most people here dropped out, but Harika keeping going. She has kept going. She has lost this one. She gets mated after King H5 Rook at Sun, but she has kept fighting on, and that has been pretty impressive from her. A few other games going on chat. There is the game between Murali against Swash, where we are in the last 20 seconds and Black should win this one. So I think Swash will move to 5 out of 7 with this win. There's going to be a lot of quick moves, and then in the end I think Black should win this one on time. I miss playing this one. Oh, Murali has managed to almost equalize, and the game has ended in a draw. So they both move to 4.5. I guess that's good for our Indians at 4. And that's the end of 7 rounds. And at the end of 7 rounds, we have Bharat with 5 out of 7, Ronak with 5 out of 7, Hikaru leading with 5.5, 2 Indians in joint second, and that goes from ranks 2 to 9 at 5 out of 7. And then we have about 6 players at 4.5 out of 7, ending with Sugiro, who had a pretty bad start, 1.5 out of 4, but has won the last 3 games. And so we have some pretty strong players like Dubo with just 3.5, which goes on to show how brilliant Ronak and Bharat have been today. So that's the end of 7 rounds, guys. We have 2 more rounds to go, and there's going to be a short break at this point. 7 rounds over, 2 more rounds to go. Will Bharat and Ronak qualify to the knockouts this time? Do hang in there, and do like the stream and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and we'll be back in action for round 8.
Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very, very tricky for the Georgian player. No, and he blunders his rook.
Oh my gosh.
He blunders his rook, and Magnus wins the game. And that was a lesson in just pressure. Duda, he has 3 pawns more than his opponent. Duda has won 3 in a row. He's getting off to a fantastic start. Gunina and Kostenyuk, 2 players with a perfect score. They're going to be facing each other. Kostenyuk once again has turned it around. And for the first time in the game, Gunina is down on the clock. Gunina is going to have to resign what initially looked like an amazing game from her. Magnus still has the threat on the pawn. There's the threat of rook f2. Magnus was actually very clever in how he just avoided the trade. And Shiro has lost on time.
So we have 3 players in first place right now in the open section.
This round, it's Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen.
I think Magnus is going to wrap this up really quickly.
The king moves away from the check. Magnus maneuvering his knight to a superior position. And Alireza resigns the game. The number 1 and number 2 players in the world right now. And Magnus Carlsen coming out there victorious, needing a win here if he is to have a sole lead. Magnus just simply retreating the king 1 step back. There's no stopping him from getting a queen on the next move. He's gonna win it. and he's gonna take the lead in this tournament. Carlsen playing against the youngster from Uzbekistan.
Abdusattorov has beaten some really strong players in this tournament, and that makes me kind of optimistic about his chances against Magnus here.
And Magnus now is going to give up another pawn. Wow, look at this. For the second time, Magnus is giving up pawns in order to just get rid of them. There's a check coming in here from Abdusattorov, and Magnus resigns. Abdusattorov takes the lead after a win against the reigning champion. Carlsen will have the opportunity to strike back with the white pieces against Nepomniachtchi.
Magnus is probably regretting this knight cd5. Now he's definitely forced to be playing for the draw.
He's not going to be catching Jan Nepomniachtchi.
That was surely a very disappointing game with the white pieces.
It's the big matchup of this round. If Kostyanyuk makes a draw with the black pieces, she will be crowned world champion.
I would have to give the edge to white in this position because of the permanent nature of black's king problems.
I agree that this is an advantage for white. What? It's over! Kostyanyuk is the champion!
Yes, Kostyanyuk, she had a wonderful tournament, a very convincing first place with 9 points.
Alexandra Kostyanyuk, the new women's rapid world champion.
Nakamura facing off against Carlsen. We've been waiting for this pairing, and it couldn't have happened at a better time when everything is on the line.
Magnus moved his rook and no longer is trapping that king on the edge of the board.
Yeah, I mean, rook a5 is a pretty good move, but also king g2, as you said. And
Magnus gives it up. It's a draw, and the rules of the event stipulate that only the 2 players with the best tiebreak score will be allowed to play the playoff. Third place, then, the bronze medal for Carlsen. It is Abdusattorov getting ready for the game. He will be facing Jan Nepomniachtchi of Russia. And Black's king doesn't manage to get back to defend the pawn. So Jan Nepomniachtchi is steering this game towards a draw. And that means Norderbeck is going to have the match ball with the white pieces in the next one. Nepomniachtchi getting rid of that last black pawn. Norderbeck getting rid of the white pawns. The guys shake hands. The white king is trying to run away from the checks. The rook just keeps checking in on that white king. Can the king get away? Both players are down to just 10 seconds on the clock. The king is finding shelter on the side of the board. Now he's returning to that checkmating idea that Irina identified earlier on. And now here comes the new queen.
Yes,
the new queen comes in, and then he's going in for the checkmate. Nepomniachtchi will have to, and he resigns. Norderbeck, Abdusattorov is the new rapid world champion.
Wow, this is an amazing turn of events. I mean, what a special moment that we're witnessing.
The world rapid champion, Norderbeck Abdusattorov. That is going to be a name to remember for the future. Only 17 years old and already a world champion. Welcome to the World Rapid Championships from Warsaw, Poland. We're about to get going. Magnus now forcing the king closer. Yeah, this is very...
Welcome back to the Rapid Chess Championship presented by Coinbase. The rounds have begun, and it's a London system in Hikaru versus Ronak, the big game. It starts with the London system, Ronak with the black pieces, and the e4 was a pretty nasty move, guys. Black needs to be very accurate here to defend this one. This game, the London system, is taking you from the beginning. This started with the London system, and after knight d2, queen b6, now d into c5, queen into b2. Queen b6, one of the topical lines, d into c5, queen into b2, rook b1, queen c3. And now after bishop b5, g6, this e4 is a pretty nasty move to face if you don't remember. Ronak probably remembers though. He goes d, bishop e5, queen a5, This is not accurate. This is actually, yeah, this is one of the most theoretical variations. Short castle d into f3, and I think there's some, yeah, the short castle d into f3, and then I think white just takes queen into f3, or maybe white starts with bishop at f6 and then plays queen into f3. Pretty interesting to see what's going on now. Hikaru's mind at this point. Yeah, into f3. White starts with bishop c6, b into c6, queen into f3. This is all theory though, and in the end it's pretty equal for black, and Ronak probably knows his way to get there by the confidence with which he's playing. So, not really the variation where you want to test Ronak, I guess, but these things are always a bit of a nasty memory test. And with queen into f3, yes, now there's this move, queen into b5, rook into b5, knight into e5 would be a lot of pieces. So white goes bishop into f6, there's queen into f1, king into f1, e into f6, queen into f6, and this variation just goes on. Meanwhile, in the Botnik Bharat game, this is going to be a tough one for Bharat. I don't like the way his pieces are huddled up. This just doesn't feel good. And Botnik, as you can see, is not in the top 8. He's down here at 4.5, so he has to win. He's not going to be satisfied with a draw. So Bharat really has to get going here. So rook d1, rook c8. Meanwhile, the third Indian to play here, Harika against Aidin. Here, Harika is off to a decent start. She's off to a decent start. Her tournament hasn't gone great though. She has 1.5 out of 7. And usually in these kind of situations, people go on tilt and things go from bad to worse. Let's see if Harika can manage to bounce back and get a few wins going here towards the end. What ends well is usually well. Getting back to our big game, Hikaru against Ronak, the big game, and so far we are still in opening prep, and Ronak seems to be remembering this one quite well. Knight d6 check, bishop into d6, c into d6, now rook b8. All of this known stuff, and also it's out there in a few different courses, and in the end it goes to a draw with some rook e1, bishop e6, rook into e6 check, f into e6, queen into e6, and this way. So this is usually how it ends, and this should end in a draw in some way. It's not the usual Ronak draw, not the Berlin draw, but I think he's going to find a way to hold on, and if he manages to do that, then he'll have the white pieces in the last round, and with probably a draw required to qualify into the knockouts. And if he does that, that will be the third time in a row for Ronak, who has been absolutely phenomenal, and probably one of the best performing Indians in the Rapid Chess Championship, and the only one to reach the final. Rook b8, and here Hikaru has two ways of playing. Rook e1, rook into e6 check, and this goes into a repetition. King f8 is the only move, g8 is attack. So this goes into this repetition, and he goes for it. Rook e1, yeah, so we are going to witness the draw. Yeah, we say it. It's a draw. It's a draw, and Hikaru consolidates his first place. He probably seals his place spot in the knockouts. Meanwhile, Botnik against Bharat, things have opened up a bit. Botnik opening things up with d5 into d5, knight into d5, knight into d5, bishop into d5, But here Bharat has various ways of defending the d6 pawn. He still needs to be careful though. He still needs to be really careful. These two spots are defended for the moment, and there's ideas with bishop f4. But on the other hand, there are potential threats on the h7 and the f7 point. So black needs to be careful here, and there is a threat of bishop f4. There's a defensive idea of bishop f4, which can possibly be a very useful defensive move for Bharat here. I guess white will prevent it with something like queen c4, not allowing this bishop to get to f4. That's one way of doing it. The other is to let the bishops get raided, go something like bishop e3, allow bishop f4, and just bring in other pieces into the game. Yes, the dark square bishop gets traded, but white will have this d5 bishop staying strong on d5. So this these are the two options here for white here. He can either prevent bishop f4, or he can embrace it. He can allow it and try to bring in some other pieces into the game. And Botnik is someone who is capable of playing really fast, but he also takes his time. He also thinks, and oh, he goes for knight g5. This is of course the human approach. He wants to create threats on f7, he wants to create threats on h7. Queen h5 is a deadly threat, but with bishop f5, Bharat manages to keep everything under control. He manages to keep everything safe, and knight into f7, rook into f7, bishop into f7, king into f7, queen h5 check, possibly expected, g6, queen into h7 check, and finally at the end of it, I think black is safe and should hold everything together. Queen h5 check, attacking the king and bishop at once, and g6 is pretty much the only move for black, because if you play bishop g6, white has this move queen d5 check. So g6 has to be played, queen and h7 check will come on board, and now king f6, and from here the game will go on for quite a bit. Black holds everything together, he has the pair of bishops, and long term this is not great for white, but short term he can try to create some kind of threats. Queen h4 check, maybe some kind of bishop g5, and try to keep the game going. So queen h5 check played, g6 played, queen into h7 check, king f6 also on the board, and if white wants, he can potentially bail out with repetition, but Bharat doesn't want any of it. He goes king g7, he's like, I have everything protected, rook h8 is going to be a threat, and now I'm going to unleash the power of my pair of bishops. So no repetition, so thank you. Bishop h6 check, he probably has to go king f7. Oh, he goes king g8. I was a bit worried about exposing these squares, but look, Bharat is gaining a bit of time, and Bharat is not the kind of guy who is gonna be happy with a draw here. He's going to go, he's probably going to play this as if it's a normal game. He's probably not going to think too much about qualification yet. He has time to do that. So now rook e1 played by Botnik. Bishop e5 is what I expect from Bharat here with the black pieces. The bishop on e5 is centralized. Queen f7 also makes sense. Rook a d1, and now this bishop can go to e5, it can go to e7, it can also go to c5 potentially, but yeah, e5 is the natural habitat for the bishop. The bishop has to be in the center, attacking the b2 pawn and protecting everything on this diagonal as well potentially. So bishop e5, and now both the a2 and the b pawn was attacked. So b4 played by white. with the idea of b5. Now I guess a6 or bishop c3. With bishop c3, black has to be a bit careful, taking this bishop away from this diagonal potentially. But here white doesn't seem to have anything better than bishop to d2. Meanwhile, a6, a4, b5 is also an option to keep things stable for the moment. And the third option is of course also to play something like b5. The times are getting closer, and the position is complex. If Bharat wins this one, he could potentially go directly towards the knockout. But it's very hard to win this position with the black pieces. It's very hard to win this position. It's only possible if the two bishops are at their absolute best. And what he's done is he's driven this bishop to d2. So he's created this d4 square for the knight. The bishops are better in the middle game at this point. Oh my god, he's allowed the rook to e7. He's allowed this rook to e7. And this is dangerous for Bharat, because although he can bail out with a queen trade, black is losing these pawns. And first of all, the queen trade not in black's best interest, but secondly, he's also allowing this rook to the 7th rank, and rook e7 played there by Botnik there. Bishop f6, there will be rook into f7, bishop into h4, and then finally rook into b7. Queen f6, queen into f6, bishop at f6, rook into b7. Queen f6, I guess there is also bishop g5, which looks quite deadly to me. Bishop g5, and then there's potentially rook into g7 and queen into d4. So he goes bishop f6, probably the best move. A bit of a bailout, rook into f7, bishop at h4, and now rook into b7, and white will have 3 pawns for the 2 minor pieces. 3 pawns, the rook and 3 pawns, and also the a7 pawn in potential danger. So rook into b7, and black is in massive trouble. Probably not in massive trouble, it's a bit of exaggeration, but clearly black is in trouble and white is the one playing for him. And now we are also in this time trouble zone with no increment and less than 3 minutes for both the players. So the time also starts playing an important role. Bishop e4, attacking the rook and getting this b5 pawn, the most advanced passed pawn in white's control. But now this creates the passed a pawn after the capture of the a7 pawn, and rook a4 happened, bishop c2, seemingly attacking both the rooks at once. But after rook c1, everything under control because of the pin on the c5. Bishop f6 with the idea of bishop b2, trying to create similar threats, but white has ample time to move away the rook. Bharat also wants to get this knight onto d4, but maybe there's some rook a6 here, and even if the knight gets onto d4, it's nothing special. But Bharat has an healthy advantage on time. Now we also know that Botnik can really accelerate towards the end, and he can play a lot of moves very quickly. So he goes rook a6, bishop b2, rook e1, and now the a pawn just starts. A pawn will start moving along. A4, a5. The rook, this rook gets to b6. A4, a5, a6. So bishop d4 played by Bharat to keep an eye on f2 and also keep an eye on a7, the same diagonal, attacking and defending at once. Bishop d4, h3, and now potentially rook f8, but he's getting really low on time. Both the players low on time, but Botnik is especially dangerous and all the more dangerous with no increment. So I'd be pretty wary if I was black here. I wouldn't really count a lot on my time advantage, and I will really try to equalize the ground as much as possible in terms of the objective position. And now it's time for white to start advancing the a pawn. So rook a6, rook a e6, rook e7 check incoming, and everything under white's control. Not so easy to make a move with black. And now we see the time situation also equalizing. So rook a e6, one of these unpleasant moves which made Bharat spend a lot of time. He drops the bishop back to f6. Everything defended for black here, but now rook b6 with the idea of rook b7 check. b5 is attacked now, and the knight might go to d4, but out there it also gets vulnerable and potential to hit by one of white's pieces. So I expect some kind of a bishop e3 here. White has to be, yeah, bishop e3, knight f5, and now bishop to f4, taking the d6 square away. Bishop d4 quickly played by Bharat, but now after rook b7 and rook c7, this is another substantial gain for white, forcing the trade of the rooks. In these positions with two minor pieces against rooks, the rook is superior with no other pieces on the board, and Botnik trying to exchange every piece he can, trying to trade everything he can, and in the end this pawn on a4, the pawn on the a file, will become instrumental, will become really powerful. So he has started bringing out this pawn on the a file. King d5, rook g4, attacking the g6 pawn, and now after rook g5 check, this pawn will further advance to a5, which is what happened in the game. And now this rook has the g6 pawn in its sides. He's going to go bishop f6 next, and the g6 pawn is also under the scanner, and this pawn is also constantly advancing. No squares for the rook on g5, but it doesn't need any square. This pawn is going all the way to a7. This bishop will support it from e3. There's also the now g4 and rook c5 check. Yeah, now rook c5 check, and at the very least there is some idea with a7. And apart from that, white can also just keep the rook on a5. He just goes h4 though. There's no way for the king to get towards the a6 pawn. This king is cut off on the 5th rank, and now he's creating another passer. You can see how much easier it is for white to play this position compared to black. Black has to think, he has to find solutions to difficult problems, whereas white can just create threats, white can just create problems. Knight e5 with the idea of knight f3 check, but this can be solved with king f1, and that's probably what happened there. Knight e5, king f1, there were a few checks in between, and then Botnik choosing to get out of the repetition. King b4, rook c1, and then finally this pawn getting to a7, and now the pawn has queened as well, and Bharat finally resigns. This was a tough one, and this was a critical point. King f7, rook e6. This was a critical point when Botnik went for this knight g5 and knight into f7, and brought the black king out into the open. And after queen h4 check, perhaps king f7 was safer. He had to keep the king out here. Bharat might have overestimated his position here a bit, but that was a really good game by Botnik, and he moves to 5 out of 8. And at the end of 8 rounds, we have Hikaru, Andrekin, and Clemente Suchev with 6 out of 8. And Ronak is at the 8th spot. He has the white pieces against Botnik, and Bharat has the white pieces against Jose Martinez in the last round, which has probably already, which is set to begin at any moment. We'll be back after a quick little break as soon as the round 9 starts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is... No! Oh, he dropped a rook. Oh, at the
He made a
very...
pre-move. He made a pre-move. King G3.
This is such a weird position.
Ooh,
He's
far.
like defending the, checkmate on f7 with his life. And I think he just lost the piece there.
Oh,
that's it.
No.
That's it. That's a full piece. King e4. Oh, he should have played king e4, I think. Knight takes, there's knight takes. Oh,
Oh no!
he can't do it. It's check.
It's time. It's time. It was a time pressure.
But overall, I was just trying to move quickly and build up pressure. I think also because last week when I played Levon in the
Welcome back everyone to the last round of the Rapid Chess Championship, the final round, and Raunak out there with 5.5 out of 8, playing the all-important 9th round, and it's not even clear if what will help him qualify, whether a draw gets him into the top 8, whether it keeps him there, or whether he requires a win. He needs to have an eye on the standings as well. And it's a pretty complicated situation for him where he has to make this calculations off the board as well. This is the standings after 8 rounds, and as you can see, Andrekin and Aronian making a very quick draw. So Andrekin moves to 6.5. He has sealed his qualification spot, and Aronian with 6 points and a pretty good tiebreak, also potentially in the knockouts. And Hikaru and Sechev surprisingly still playing. I expected a quick draw there. And if we get it updated, yeah, there we have it. So the top four of them already in: Hikaru, Andrekin, Clementi, Sechev, and Aronian. Now there are 4 spots remaining, and Sarana is playing against Sugiro Sanan, who is at the 10th spot. We have 6 people with 5.5 fighting for these 4 spots, and we also have 6 people with 5 out of 8, and they also have chance to get to 6 out of 9. So Raunak probably a draw will not suffice for him. He needs to fight it out in this one, and Botnik is not the easiest opponent to face in the last round in a situation like this. Meanwhile, let's have a look at Bharat's game, where it's pretty clear for him. He needs to win this one, and he's playing against Jose Martinez, who is again an incredibly strong online speed chess player. He's very strong in blitz, and the position that Bharat has gotten out of the opening, nothing special here. It's actually pretty equal. His one hope might be that Jose Martinez also needs to win, but with this move c5, he's threatening this very dangerous threat of knight d6, which means black has to take this knight. But if he takes it directly, then after bishop at d4, bishop at d4, bishop at c5, there is bishop h7 check. And for this reason, it's better to start with d3, rook into d3, bishop at d4, and then play queen into c5 check. So I guess this is important. And the problem for black, that goes into a pretty equal position. It kind of neutralizes everything out there. So not in black's best interest if he's looking for a win here. But on the other hand, he also doesn't want to lose. He doesn't want to end with a loss. So I think d3 is psychologically a pretty playable move. Meanwhile, Raunak has gotten some real advantage here, guys. This happened, the game started with the Alekhine defense, e4, knight f6, e5, knight d5, d4, d6. And now knight f3 is one of these moves that give an advantage for white, knight into e5, c6. It's a really nice advantage because you have a slightly better pawn structure and the pieces are more active. And with white, you just make these normal moves, short castle, bring back the knight. And now you want to play c4, but there's knight b4, so you start with a3, knight d7, now you go c4, knight to c7, the bishop comes out to f4, takes control of e5, c5, the bishop goes to e3, And now after c into d4, knight into d4, a good move. And Ronak himself used to play quite a bit of Alekhine defense, so it's not surprising that he knows how to play this opening. He forces the black to give up the bishop, and now he has a really nice position. Pair of bishops, some pressure, a 3-minute advantage on the clock. So Botnik really struggling to find moves in this position. He's struggling to find easy moves. And Ronak is someone who can put him under the clock pressure. He's someone who's capable, he's right up there. And one of the strategies for white here is to keep taking away squares from this knight. So he goes g4, he goes h4, he goes g5, and gets this rook out to d7. d7 is one square, d5 is another square. This bishop goes to c4. The pawn can get to b3. Bishop g5 makes a lot of sense, taking away squares from this knight, and it's even possible to go into this type of an opposite color bishop endgame if it's required, but not instantly, because there's no way to dislodge this bishop out from g5. King g7, black has to play king g7 and then get this pawn to h6, but he has to contend with the immediate threats, rook c7 and bishop c4, and pressure on the f7 pawn. So there's no way to stop this rook from coming on to c7. The evaluation bar shows 0.6, but in reality I think this is more like plus 1.5. Black defends the e7 bishop. He plans to meet rook c7 with knight d5. I think Ronak will take care of that with some bishop f3 here, or even rook c6. Rook c6, knight d5, and just bring the bishop back and keep the advantage going. So this rook has to get to c7, the bishop has to get to c4. It's not possible instantly, so get the rook to c6 first, and then get this bishop to c4 and rook to c7. a7, f7, the problem points for black in this position, and it's looking pretty good for Ronak out there. Meanwhile, once again, getting back to the Bharat game, black did indeed play d3 here, rook into d3, rook into d3, queen into d3, and he got this pretty equal position. Bharat took a pawn, but with his opposite color bishop, there's a lot of activity for Jose Martinez here. This rook is coming on to d2. This king had to go to h3. I had a very similar pawn structure in one of my games against a Chinese opponent in the last round of the India-China summit, and queen c2 is basically a draw of queen into c2, bishop into c2, rook into d1, bishop into d1, and now the king comes into the game, and it's pretty drawish. So this was a draw offer, but Jose Martinez, there were still some dangers in the opposite color bishop, so he wants to get to equality in his own terms and not fight for a draw with a pawn of position. So he just goes, he defends the pawn on g6, and the queen on b4 and the rook on d4 combination makes sure that black has full activity all through. So this one's pretty good for black here. But the Ronak game is encouraging for white. This is good news, guys, and this is good news because even with a draw, I wouldn't rule out Ronak getting into the top 8, but it could potentially lead to a heartbreak, because Ronak doesn't seem to have the best of tie breaks. If you look at this, like there's 5.5 at the 5th place and 5.5 at the 10th place, and Ronak is at number 4 within this bracket. So not counting the top 3, there's a lot of competition for these 5 places, and some people with 6 will definitely get pushed out from being in the top 8. And the good thing for Ronak, the positive here is he has this fantastic time advantage. He has a 3-minute advantage, and although Botnik is better than most other people out there in playing under time trouble. He's also a human. He's also susceptible under pressure. And I think Ronak is really a master in this format. So already Black has made some fantastic progress in defending in this position. He has not let the position fall apart completely, and he has made a pretty good defensive construction here, but it's still +1, it's still pressure. And from Ronak's perspective, what he needs to keep doing is to keep setting problems. Rook c8 check, I think this is not especially difficult for Black to play. King g7 was like the only move. Bishop c3, and now he can go knight d4. Again, not a difficult move for Black to play here. I think not the most problematic moves though played by Ronak against his opponent. Bishop c3, it's attacking the e5 pawn, but it's a pretty direct move, and Botnik also responds in a pretty direct way. He just goes knight to d4. It's still barely less than it's less than 150 seconds, and there is a long way to go in this game. So knight to d4, the pawn can get to f5 against some potential bishop g4 attacks. Against bishop c4 is the move that I was predicting Ronak to play, and I was trying to find a suitable move for Black here against bishop c4, and Black really has to just wait around now. He has to wait around, but bishop d6 allows f4. So guys, it's not easy. This is the type of problems that Black can face. It's just not possible to calculate all these moves. Bishop d6, Botnik took 8 seconds here, and 8 seconds is already he had what, 146 seconds. So if we had to divide 146 by 8, that comes to something around 18.25. He spent 1/18th of his time on that move already, and now he has 138 seconds only, and he has allowed f4, so his position has weakened a bit. He probably wants rook c7. He wants to trade. He wants to try and simplify the position. So f4, rook c7, and now f into e5 is a neat little trick. It's a beautiful trick. I'm not sure if Ronak will find this. It's not easy, guys, because rook into c8, e into d6, rook into c4, and now the point is d7. But this is insanely hard to see in such a short time. So Ronak goes for a6, a lot more human move, preparing to go into this endgame with the pair of bishops. But this has become easier for Botnik. He's gone he's going king d2, pawn to g5, and now the thing is, even if white takes this pawn, it's potentially going to be a draw. Botnik will put all his pawns on the dark squares and bring his king into the game. He's down to the territory where he has around 100 seconds only though, so still very much in this flagging zone, the red flag zone. But it's become easier for Black to defend this one now. Let's have a look at how Bharat is doing against Jose Martinez. And this one's still not over, by the way. Bharat has emerged a pawn up. Jose Martinez kind of declining all the possibilities to make a draw earlier. It's not going to be easy to beat Jose in this position. He has activity and the time situation is approximately equal. But again, Jose Martinez is someone who can play in these situations with less time. He has a lot of practice. So this one's not going to be easy for Bharat, and he has his task cut out. Once again, queen f1, pretty much a draw for guys. You can take and then play the pawn to a5, and I don't see Black losing that one. But draw is in neither of them's best interest. Jose has to win this one to get a chance of qualifying, and so does Bharat. But Bharat doesn't really have a way to keep the game going here. He has to trade and make a draw, which brings us to this important game of Ronak, who has clearly the best chances amongst Indians to get to the knockouts, and he's making some steady progress. He's making some steady progress. He's getting this pawn to h5, and in a situation like this with the pawn on h5, there are all these entry points for white, and black has to be really careful to not allow this. Once again, not at all an easy task with barely 75 seconds. It's very tough. Botnik will probably keep his king on d6 and e6. He'll maintain this, but at some point Ronak will play the bishop to c4, and g into f5 check. Now this is something which he's cracked under pressure. Bishop c3, the best way was, I don't know, it's hard to advise. He was under intense pressure. He goes for f5 check. Ronak has to take g into f5. Not a lot of point thinking about this one. G into f5, bishop c4, and now there was this nice tactic with knight into f3, king into f3, e4 check. But Botnik under pressure again. He just goes knight c2, and Botnik is probably thinking that he has this position under control, because he just maintains this knight on d4. This bishop protects it from f6, and he probably thinks that white cannot make easy progress here. But I'm not so sure about that, because you can get... And Ronak actually sacrifices the pawn. He sacrificed the pawn with f6 to create this path for his king. Bishop into d4, into d4, king f5, king g6. And he's not going to do it immediately. He's going to take his own sweet time and prepare it towards the time at his moment of choosing and convenience. Chat, what do you think? Is Ronak going to be able to make it this time, or do you think he's going to get a bit unlucky here? Everything hinging on this one final game. Ronak creating a lot of pressure, doing a lot of things right, but it has been an incredible resistance so far by Botnik. He's been absolutely fabulous. And once again, a quick check in the standings. Jeffrey Chong won his game against Murali Mohammed. He's the fourth person to seal his qualification spot. Getting back to our game, sticking on to this f4, trying to create this deadly threat. E into f4, bishop f2 would trap this knight on d4. There's no square for this knight, and knight c2 would lead to bishop into b6. A very, very nice trick by Ronak, but his opponent up to it. He takes 8 seconds, he plays g into f4, and now he's back to his fortress. He's just maintaining this. Only 37 seconds for Ronak here, for Botnik here. He has only 33 seconds now. He has very limited time, and he has to be at his absolute best. But Botnik knows how to play in these situations, guys. He knows. He's been a pretty good bullet player, and now with knight e3 check, I think he goes into this pretty simplified opposite color bishop. He actually doesn't even go for this. He takes the pawn. He starts creating counterplay for him. It's not a one-sided situation anymore. Ronak can even lose this. He has a pretty big time advantage, but Botnik's not going to just take it down lying. He's creating counter chances for himself, and now I think the chances of Ronak winning is pretty much non-existent, guys, because black can just pre-move. Black can just pre-move with whatever, bishop c5, bishop f2, bishop g1. He can just pre-move, and it's actually Ronak who's in potential danger of losing this one, but he repeats, and this one ends in a draw. After some intense pressure, Botnik managing to end it in a draw, and he gets into the bracket. But I think Ronak is also going to get into it, guys. Almost all the games over. Only one game remaining between Sugiro Sanan against Sarana, and Sugiro both of them having 5.5 points, so one of them is going to go up, but Raunak there at 7 points, and I don't really think both the players will have better tiebreak than. Oh, in any case, the last round is over, the last game is over, and Sugiro has lost this one. So Sarana gets into the top 8, and Bharat has managed to win. Bharat has managed to win, and he's pushed out Raunak in the top 8. How did he manage to win that game? Oh my god. We completely forgot about it, and Bharat had no chances of winning this game objectively. This was pretty equal all through, but he managed to create some chances. His opponent choosing to trade queens in the most. Why did he play h4? Why did he play h4? Why not just queen into d3 and bishop into d3? But Bharat, rewarded for his fighting attitude, he has been rewarded for some pretty good play all through today. And this was a tough one, guys. Bharat qualifying for the first time into the knockouts, but he goes on to play against Hikaru Nakamura in the knockouts. That's not going to be easy. And this is a standings incredibly unfortunate for Raunak. It's very unfortunate, but that's what happens when you have limited the amount of seats and a lot of deserving people. Someone gets unfortunate, and Raunak and Fedosiv, the big fish, miss out this time. Some pretty strong players. And in 5.5 also we have some pretty strong players, including Paravya and Sugiro Sanan out there with 26.96, Maxim Matloko with only 5 points, and Grishchuk scoring only 4 points. That shows you how strong this tournament has been. And it was an incredibly strong tournament, but Raunak doing fabulously well to score 6 out of 9. Bharat did manage to beat Raunak in their direct encounter, and he also finishes off with 6 out of 9, rewarded for his fighting play. And yes, Madhur, I think you're right. He might be the youngest player to ever qualify into the knockouts. Levon finished his game pretty early. He drew against Andrikin. He was amongst the first to finish, and that brings a wrap to another Rapid Chess Championship qualifier, guys. Week 18 this time, and it was this will be the last Rapid Chess Championship qualifier before the candidates begins, and the next one's all the way at July 2, well after the candidates being at its final stage. This was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much for sticking through, and see you for the knockouts of Hikaru against Bharat tomorrow. Thank you so much, and bye bye and good night.